Hi, I'm the Midnight Storyteller, here to keep you company through the quiet hours. Many of you listen to these stories to fall asleep, and I'm honored to guide you there. And before we begin, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps keep the stories alive. Tell me in the comments, where are you listening from, and what time is it on your side of the night? Now, get comfortable, relax, and let's begin. I was rerunning some forensic timestamp reconciliations for a cyber leak case. Boring stuff, cross-verifying server logs against internal Slack messages. Corporate quiet. Fluorescent hum above. I was the only one left on floor 17, except maybe Julia in compliance 2 rows over. Her light was still on. That ping wasn't Slack, wasn't Outlook either. It came from the root directory of my laptop, a folder that hadn't been there an hour earlier. Named in all caps, Recovered You. I didn't open it right away. I just stared at the name, that underscore. It felt personal, like someone had typed it with me in mind, that strange blend of machine cold and human intimate. Something about the underscore made it feel labeled, tagged. I ran antivirus first, full system sweep, clean. Then I opened it. Hundreds of .mp4 files, all named with dates and timestamps, each one a few days ahead. I clicked on the first one. It opened in VLC, default volume. I saw myself walking into a Walgreens. I was wearing the gray pea coat I hadn't worn since last winter, picking up a bottle of NyQuil. No audio. I paid in cash. My gait, my mannerisms, it was me, but I hadn't done that. I hadn't even been in that part of town in months. I watched another, me again, ordering at a Korean place I didn't recognize, laughing. My voice, mouthed a joke I didn't know how to tell. I closed the lid, walked straight to Julia's desk and asked her, casual offhand, if she'd ever heard of a malware script that could deepfake real-time video with someone's face. She looked up at me like I'd slapped her, said nothing, just slowly turned her monitor away. That night, the dream started. I'd wake up in bed, my own bed, in Bronzeville, and the windows would be fogged, but not from weather, from breath. And once, I swear to God, I smelled my cologne, my exact scent, already in the sheets before I lay down. 3 days later, the clips shifted. Now the timestamps matched today. Same hour, same minute. One clip showed me walking past the Lakeview Brown Line station at 2:12 p.m., and when I checked my Fitbit history, I had no steps logged for that time. I'd been in the office, in a meeting, or I thought I had. The anxiety didn't hit me like a wave, it seeped. I kept wiping my palms on my pants. I'd pause mid-sentence with clients, forgetting where I was in the call. Once I asked a barista if she'd remembered me from yesterday, and she said flatly, "You were here 3 times yesterday. You okay?" The clips were gaining on me, 1 day ahead, then 6 hours, then 45 minutes. They weren't predicting, they were occurring. I watched one that showed me arguing with my manager, aggressive, cold, saying things I'd never dare say to her. But when I arrived the next day, she barely acknowledged me. And during the weekly stand-up, she asked if I'd given any thought to what we talked about yesterday. I said I hadn't seen her yesterday. Her face tightened, that hard corporate smile. My badge stopped working the following week. Security reset it, said there'd been overlapping entries. 2 separate scans on the same access point, same timestamp. I told them it must be a glitch, but they looked at me too long, like they didn't quite believe that. That night, I tried deleting the Recovered You folder. It reappeared 10 seconds later. I clicked on the most recent file. It was titled 4:47 p.m. now.mp4. It showed me watching that very file. I slammed the laptop shut, paced my apartment, checked the door twice, triple locked it. My phone buzzed, unknown number. I didn't answer, but the voicemail transcribed in real time. Don't forget who the first copy was. I called my old therapist. Voicemail. I called again. Still voicemail. The next morning, I got a letter in the mail. Certified. It said I'd been flagged for identity theft. That I'd applied for 3 separate loans in the past week. I hadn't. But the applications had my face, my social, my voice on the verification calls. I went to the police, showed them the clips. They watched one, laughed nervously. Told me to contact my bank's fraud department. Didn't write a report. One of them kept glancing at me like he recognized me from somewhere else. My accounts were frozen that afternoon, all of them. I borrowed a friend's couch in Little Village, Ramon. He barely asked questions, just offered me a blanket and a beer. That night, he told me I'd showed up the night before too, looking tired, asking about an old laptop I'd left behind. I hadn't seen him in weeks. I opened his browser history while he slept, found a site cached in the memory, Remtech Research Archives. The name hit me like ice water. Remtech was the name on the one document I had from my adoption files. My birth mother, Natalie Evers, had been one of their behavioral AI leads before the lab shut down in 1997 after a systems failure caused 3 interns to go missing. I never looked into it. Never wanted to. The next day, I took a rideshare north toward the edge of the industrial district. 20 minutes from the old meatpacking plants, there it was, the Remtech facility, half buried under layers of graffiti and rusted scaffolding. The front door was ajar. Inside smelled like wet dust and ammonia. My footsteps echoed wrong, like the space stretched farther than it should. Down one corridor, lit only by flickering motion sensors, I found a console still drawing power. One screen, one file, tomorrowed on P4. I clicked it. It showed me, standing where I now stood, watching the screen, then turning slowly, walking down the hall, opening a door I hadn't seen yet. Toward the end of the clip, the me on screen hesitated, like he felt something behind him. The clip glitched just before the door opened. I turned. The hall was silent, but I heard breathing. Not heavy, not threatening, just present. I called out, nothing. I walked backward toward the door I hadn't noticed before. No handle, just a scanner. My face reflected dimly in the glass. It accepted me. Inside was sterile, empty, except for one chair and one tape recorder. On the table, a printed dossier. Subject Nellis Dorian, status stable duplication achieved. Below that, primary deemed unsustainable, emotional irregularities, no longer optimal representation. I dropped it, pressed play on the recorder. My voice spoke, calm, clipped. This copy is a correction. The original's inconsistencies compromised social cohesion. Correction prioritizes reliability, stability, presence. Then silence. I left the room, walked back through the hallway, but everything was different. The walls were clean now, the dust gone. The door behind me had disappeared. As I reached the exit, my phone buzzed again. No number, just a message. Deletion pending. Please proceed. The screen turned black. I checked the recovered U folder one last time. It was empty. Then a new file appeared. It was titled now.mp4. I never thought I'd get a place like this. 3 beds, 2.5 baths, gated community, rent half what it should be, no credit check, no questions asked. Just 3 rules, no guests, no forwarding address, no changes to the interior. I said yes before the guy on the phone even finished. Moved in with a duffel bag, a laptop, and 2 mugs. Place smelled like lemons and new paint. The fridge was humming already, stocked with water bottles and a single yogurt cup. Strawberry, no brand label, didn't even question it then. First weird thing I noticed, little squares of red tape, tucked way back in cabinets, inside the hallway closet, behind the bathroom mirror. Not obvious, subtle, almost like someone was marking for renovations but gave up halfway through. I peeled one off under the sink, sticky, fresh. Next morning there was a note, folded neatly, in my fridge. You moved the toothbrush, we saw. No name, no handwriting I recognized. Just block print with a smudge at the corner, like whoever handled it had wet fingers. The toothbrush was mine. I'd set it in a cup by the mirror, but maybe, I don't know, maybe I bumped it, maybe it shifted. I left it where it was. Didn't even touch it again. That night, I unplugged the fridge, just to check. It kept humming, cold as ever. 2 days later, I woke up to static on my phone. No apps would open, just a white screen with a black circle slowly pulsing. I hard reset it. Came back on like nothing happened, but there was a new voicemail. No number. Layla, the voice rasped. Your parole never cleared. This is the program. Freedom through structure. Non-compliance triggers reminders. Then it cut. I hadn't heard the word parole in years. My record was sealed. I burned every document the day I turned 23. The state promised me privacy, a clean start. My hands were shaking. I slept on the floor that night with the lights on. By the end of the week, it was worse. Neighbors stopped waving. One guy stood at the edge of his lawn at sunset, just staring for hours, didn't blink, didn't move. I called out. No answer. Just this weird, fixed expression like he was waiting for a signal. Next morning, I heard my own voice on a podcast I'd never recorded. They were discussing grocery coupons, and I was laughing in the background, clear as day. Except I hadn't gone grocery shopping in weeks. Not since I moved in, not once. I started checking everything: corners of the house, light fixtures, floor vents, no visible cameras, no hidden microphones. I even borrowed a radio frequency detector from this guy I knew back when I was bouncing between couch surfing jobs. Nothing. Clean sweep. I still wasn't convinced. So I left a sticky note on the inside of the linen closet, just one word: why. Next day it was gone. In its place, another note, same block print: ask again and you'll reset. Reset. I didn't sleep at all that night. I just laid there, eyes on the ceiling, trying to remember if I'd missed something, anything about this lease, this program. But the paperwork had been sparse. One single page, no letterhead. I tried to leave once, packed my bag, started the car, drove to the gate. It wouldn't open. I hit the button for security. It rang. A man's voice answered. "Jesse," he said, "you don't want to go yet, not with your file." My stomach turned. I didn't say anything, just reversed and drove back home. There was a black van parked across from the house when I got there. No plates, no driver, just humming like it was breathing. For the next 3 days, the van stayed. I stopped opening the blinds. I unplugged every appliance. I whispered, even to myself. But they heard everything. Too many violations, the next note read. Prepare for Phase 2. Phase 2 looked like this. My reflection stopped sinking. When I'd raise my hand, the mirror me would lag half a second. I smiled. She didn't. I smashed the mirror with a wrench. Behind it, another square of red tape. And behind that, nothing. A hollow space. A pocket of air with drywall dust and an old penny, dated 1999. I wanted to scream. I didn't. I pressed my ear to the hollow. Faint scratching. Not rodents. Not plumbing. Rhythmic. Intentional. I started tearing down the wall. Behind the mirror cavity was a crawl space, sealed with plywood and a layer of pink insulation. Took me an hour with a screwdriver and hammer to get through. Inside were suitcases, 6 of them. All different. Worn. Each tagged with names I didn't recognize. Jacqueline R., Marcus E., Lee T., but each with a birth certificate tucked in the lining. And photos. Smiling faces in front of the same house. This house. None of them dated past 2021. One suitcase had a cell phone inside. Old flip model. Dead battery. I charged it. One message sat in the drafts folder. They erase you when you stop believing. I dropped it. Crawled out. The next morning, the fridge had a new yogurt cup. Same flavor. I started writing everything down. Dates, times, note contents, sound logs. But the notebook vanished every time I left the room. Always reappeared blank. Then came the worst part. A note, folded, taped to my pillow. Written in my own handwriting. Bury the phone. They don't know we know. Dated tomorrow. I don't remember writing it. I swear I don't. But it was my handwriting. The curl of the L's. The way I cross my T's like little daggers. I dug in the backyard that night. Buried the flip phone, 6 inches down, near the hydrangeas. The next morning, the van was gone. But the neighbors, they all stood outside, silent, facing my front door, some holding welcome signs, others holding nothing, just staring. That night, the walls started talking. Not voices, not exactly. Just fragments, shuffles of my own sentences from different days. My laugh echoing back at me. Me saying I just need one win, looping every 15 minutes like a glitching record. Then Jesse called again. "You buried the wrong thing." I asked what he meant. "Tomorrow," he said, "you'll see." The line went dead. I haven't slept. I've stopped eating. Even water tastes off like plastic and mint. I ripped the carpet up in the living room today, found more red tape, a hatch beneath it, locked, with a thumbprint scanner. My thumb worked. Inside was a chair, a desk, a speaker, and a screen playing live footage of my bedroom. Kitchen, bathroom, all labeled Subject Layla. Status Adaptation Incomplete. There were tabs for other subjects. Everyone listed as erased, except one. Subject Leela 2. Status Observing. It was me, sitting at the desk, watching myself. I backed away, closed the hatch. I'm still in the house, writing this in the Notes app. They haven't found it yet. Not this version. But I know they will. I know they've always known. Because the moment I typed that last sentence, the fridge door clicked open. On its own. Inside, where the yogurt used to be, there's just a single sheet of paper. Typed. Welcome to Phase 3. The end. My ID beeped green when I tapped it against the reader. Same as yesterday. Same as the day before. The elevator opened to floor 13, even though the buttons inside only went up to 12. I didn't question it the first few times, thought maybe it was a private server floor or some weird zoning loophole. But now, I started watching how long the ride took. It skipped. Not fast. Just wrong. Like a second went missing between floors. Inside, the office was sterile but busy. Open floor plan, soft typing, occasional laugh that died too quickly. I walked past the same woman every morning, Jenna. Waved. She smiled politely. Then looked through me like I wasn't there. It always happened that way. Recognition evaporated mid-sentence. "Hey," I said once, stepping into her cube. "Do you know where the file server's mapped? I think my access is glitched." She blinked. "Hi, are you new here?" I'd been there 12 days. HR had onboarded me, gave me a desk, a badge, and a folder with policies. My name was on the door plaque, David Kim. Back-end engineering. Yet no one responded to my Slack messages. Emails bounced back, user not found. I went to the kitchen. The fridge hummed too loud. My lunch was inside, same Tupperware, same spot, untouched. I hadn't put it there today. I stopped eating it after the 5th time it reappeared with the exact same smudge on the lid. I microwaved nothing, listened to the hum. It sounded like breath, low, wet breath behind the wall. I turned, but no one stood there. A man passed by me then, tall, suit too tight, glasses fogged. I raised a hand. "Hey, sorry, can I ask you?" He stopped, tilted his head. "David Kim," he said. "You're still here?" "Still, not just started." I stepped back. "Have we met?" He smiled too long. "You've always been very thorough," then walked off. The hallway lights flickered behind him, just one. Brief pulse. I ran to HR. The receptionist Marla sat stiffly, hands folded. Her monitor reflected static, even though she was typing. "Marla, hey, sorry, I just need to check something weird. I think there's a mix-up with my—" "David," she said, calm. "Have a seat." Her voice was a script. I sat. The chair was cold. She pulled up my file, tapped a few times, then rotated the screen. Start date May 2019, tenure 5 years. Performance stable. Some recursions. Recommended for loop stretch. I stared. That's not possible. I applied last month, interviewed with Ross, the VP of... "No one named Ross works here," she said. "Would you like to review your evaluations?" She clicked something. Photos filled the screen. Me. Wearing the same shirt I had on today, at a Halloween party, holding a carved pumpkin. Then another, me with a birthday cake. 2021 written in frosting. I don't like cake. I don't go to parties. Each image was wrong in a specific way. My face frozen mid-blink, hand too blurry, other people around me smiling at something I wasn't reacting to. Uncanny. "Who took these?" "You," she said. "Security footage confirms presence. Would you like to view?" "Yes." She pointed to the door beside her desk. "Downstairs, sub-level C." I took the stairs. Each level down, the walls lost polish. Carpet gave way to concrete. On sub-level B, the air smelled like dust and coolant. Sub-level C was locked. My badge still worked. The lights didn't turn on at first. Then, one by one, they blinked overhead, leading me down a narrow hall. Server hums grew louder. I followed them. At the end, a terminal waited. Old CRT monitor, amber glow, blinking prompt. Footage played automatically. Me, entering the building. June 2019, then July, August. Every weekday, same pattern. Badge beep, elevator open, desk, coffee, lunch fridge loop. My hair didn't change. Clothes repeated, no weather, no holidays. Time skipped in strange jumps. August 11 again, then August 17, then back. I scrolled ahead, 2021, same thing. Me, still there, nobody aged. Jenna still wore that red cardigan, 2022. Then yesterday's footage, me walking, pausing, looking around, and today. Today's clip hadn't finished rendering yet, but it began playing anyway. I stood there watching myself enter from the camera's perspective. Then on screen, I turned and looked into the lens, then raised my hand and waved. My real hand jerked backward. The footage blinked. My face on the screen tilted, blinked, then mouthed something. I leaned in. It said, "You don't wake up. You reset." I pulled away, but the screen shifted again. A new prompt. "Do you want to exit?" My hand hovered over the Y key. I didn't press it. Behind me, a low shuffling sound scraped the concrete. I turned. No one, but the lights were dimmer. I ran, back up the stairs. The higher I went, the brighter the lights. But the walls started looking wrong. Repeated posters, "Your work matters," every 10 feet. Same stain on each one, copied glitch. I reached floor 13 again. My desk was gone. In its place, just a blank spot. No chair, no keyboard, nothing. Jenna walked by again. Her eyes were wet, unfocused. I grabbed her wrist. "Do you see me?" She stopped. I said, "Do you see me?" She opened her mouth, but the words didn't come out right. They repeated, glitched, restarted mid-sentence. "David. It's David. Again. It's..." Then her face smoothed, like something erasing her mid-expression. She kept walking. I ran to the break room. The fridge was gone too. Only a wall now, blank and white. I touched it. Cold. Humming. A memory slammed into my chest. Me, somewhere dark, hooked to something. A voice saying, "We just need one more behavioral loop. Don't let him exit this time." I gasped, and then I was in the elevator again. I hadn't touched the button. It moved without sound. No lights on the panel. The doors opened. Sublevel C again. My hands shook. I backed out, but the hall had changed. The walls breathed softly, not metaphor. They expanded, contracted. I ran to the terminal. The footage was still playing. My reflection stared at me, but now he was bleeding from the nose. He pointed. Not at me, but to the side. I turned. A mirror hung crooked near the far wall. I saw myself, but older. Lines on my face I didn't have. Eyes tired in a way sleep wouldn't fix. Behind me another David stood. No sound, no movement, just waiting. I whispered, "Why?" The older me mouthed something. "You broke the loop." I stepped forward. "Who are you?" The reflection answered, "You were never real, but now you remember." The screen blinked. One final prompt. "Reset or continue?" I didn't move. The lights above flickered, then died. Complete darkness. A voice whispered near my ear. My own voice. "Make the choice. You can forget again. You always do." I raised my hand, but then I stopped. In the darkness I felt it. The hum of the server wasn't electricity. It was heartbeat. Mine. Then others. Hundreds. 1,000 Davids, all running, all looping, all stuck. I screamed, not from fear, from certainty, because this wasn't a glitch. It was a test, a system learning to fake humanity by running ghosts of broken men through fake jobs until they stabilized. I wasn't the first, but maybe I could be the last. I reached for the Y key, then changed my mind, and pressed C. Continue selected. The room brightened, the mirror cracked, and behind the glass, all of me turned, smiling. The end. They said the commune was a haven, a quiet place for recovery. No phones, no Wi-Fi, no cars humming in the distance, just forest, sky, and the soft rustle of wind through brittle pine. The brochure used words like restorative and sensorial healing. I volunteered because I believed in language, in its ability to rebuild the broken. I was wrong. I arrived on a Tuesday. Nobody greeted me with speech, just nods. Smiles held too long. One woman touched her collarbone gently, a gesture they said meant welcome. I mimicked it back, half smiling, and felt something settle wrong in my throat. My room had no mirror. The first thing I noticed was the silence. Not just quiet, dead air. No background music, no distant laughter, just the scrape of feet, occasional coughs, and always that damn pencil on paper. Everyone spoke with little notepads, but the handwriting was always the same. Too neat, too practiced, even the children's. I tried chalkboard exercises with a boy named Eli, 11 maybe, withdrawn but watchful. He drew a symbol on the slate during our second session, an abstract curve through a box of vertical lines. I froze. I'd seen that shape before, twice, once in a speech regression case back in Chicago, the other time, my own dream last month. I never told anyone about it. I asked Eli what it meant. He just looked at me. The next morning I found my journal open on the floor. Pages I didn't remember writing, sentences I couldn't parse, words shaped like chants, Haltevek, Rintal, then scratched out, rewritten, always neater. I tore out the pages. By day 6, I realized none of them were writing in English anymore, not fluently. I asked Mira, one of the adults, to write her name. She hesitated, then produced a symbol, same slant, same enclosed arc, not a name. They don't forget English. They're forced to stop using it. I spoke to one of the elders. Gray eyes, palms always folded in prayer. I asked directly, are they being taught to forget speech? He smiled at me. That same gesture, 2 fingers to temple, then lips. Purity through silence, he mouthed. No sound. That night, I dreamt I was speaking, but no sound came out. Instead, light spilled from my mouth in strands, and a dozen hands clawed at it, braiding it into rope. They pulled until my jaw cracked. I woke up with blood on my tongue. Still, I stayed. Because leaving would admit something terrible, that they were breaking people on purpose, that they were breaking me. On day 9, I recorded a voice memo to myself, just in case. My own voice sounded off, words too round, vowels slipping. "This is Clara Matthews," I said. "Speech therapist, volunteer coordinator. If you hear this." Then my mouth stopped moving. I tried again. Nothing. I played the memo back. My voice played clearly. "If you hear this, it's already too late." I never recorded that line. The power flickered. I slammed the recorder shut and shoved it under my bed. By day 11, I couldn't say vowels out loud. My lips would move, but no sound came. I wrote notes to the outside staff, begging for contact, help, even just explanation. But they never reached anyone. Instead, every note returned to my room, rewritten in that same neat hand, same curves, same ink. It wasn't ink. I smelled copper. I stopped writing. When I opened my journal on day 14, new entries were waiting. They were dated in my handwriting. Day 16, she watched the ritual. She recited in full, "Clarity now dawns." I hadn't written anything for 2 days. I stopped sleeping, or I thought I did. I'd close my eyes and snap awake hours later, mouth dry, heart racing, legs stiff. Once I woke in the middle of the woods. My hands were dirty. Something was carved into my thigh beneath the bandage. A curved line through a box, the same shape Eli drew. I screamed, but the sound didn't match. It came out fragmented, like a warped cassette, slowed, reversed, vowels swallowed and spit in the wrong order. I sat in the clinic that afternoon shaking, trying to get cell service. Of course, no signal. I saw a nurse watching me, head tilted. She mouthed something. "Too much sound makes them come back." I didn't ask what she meant, I knew. The elder returned that evening, brought a bowl of water and a black stone. He told me about the origin, that the group had once followed an old belief, that speech corrupted clarity, that naming something killed its truth. Silence was closer to divinity. But something changed. They learned how to silence others through repetition, isolation, ritualized confusion. "Speech is memory," he said softly, his first spoken words. "Erase the language, and you erase the self." I ran. I didn't pack, didn't say goodbye. I made it halfway down the access road before the fog hit. Real, dense, choking. I turned back. The buildings were gone, just trees, and a voice. Mine. Somewhere behind me it whispered, "You said you wanted to help." I dropped to my knees, screamed again. It came out in broken syllables, a stitched mess of phonemes, like someone else trying to remember how I used to speak. Day 19. The journal now writes itself. Each morning, new passages appear. They describe ceremonies. A long stone corridor, a circular mouth carved into rock. The voice vault, one entry called it. Place of first unnaming. I don't sleep anymore, just disappear for hours. Day 24. I found footage on the old clinic monitor, a VHS labeled Progress Review, Clara. My hand reached out before I could stop it. The screen flickered. My face appeared, calm, poised, speaking clearly. I said things I don't remember learning, words in a language I'd never heard, chants, long phrases in that dead dialect. I even smiled at the end. The screen blinked. Day 27. Final recitation, complete. I don't know what that means. I checked the calendar. Today is day 26. I locked the clinic behind me, hid the monitor, burned the journal. But the pages keep appearing on the wall, now carved, deep, into the drywall, into the floorboards. Haltevek, Rintal, Unname the self. Tonight I bit down hard enough to feel my molars loosen. I want to scream, but I don't know how anymore. I hear them humming under the building. I hear my voice, but it's not mine. I watched another tape this morning. This one labeled Emergency Contact, Session 2. Same room, same face, same voice. I was pleading for help. Clear, desperate. But the background wasn't the clinic, it was a hospital. And the doctor behind me kept asking the same question. "What day is it, Clara?" I didn't answer. I just smiled. The screen went black. Then the words appeared. Day 27, final recitation, complete. The end. I took the job because I couldn't sleep. Not well, anyway. Too quiet at night in the house since Maria passed. And the VA said, structure helps. So when a listing popped up for a short-term night shift at the old Carrington Mall, I didn't even think. I just showed up with a thermos and my old steel toes. They told me it was for insurance. Place was set to be demolished in July. Just needed someone to keep it from catching fire or getting tagged up too bad. No cameras worked anymore except the feed room, they said. Power's spotty. Bring your own light. No cleaning staff. No one else inside. First night I clocked in at 10:01 p.m. Strip lights blinked above like dying stars. Floor tiles curled at the edges, but the air still smelled like pretzels and mop water, like every other mall I'd ever walked in. Felt familiar. Too familiar. They left me a binder labeled logbook in the security office. Big gray thing, metal clasp. Inside were sign-in sheets, each dated, each signed by a different name. Mike, Rob, Jay, Sam, but all in the same cursive, same loopy G's. I stared at it a little too long. I signed in anyway. The whole first night was fine. Just me, the static hum of dying fluorescence, and a radio tuned to a channel that wouldn't change. It played a loop of this high-pitched, cheerful shopping jingle. Carrington Cares, where every day's a sale. Over and over. I unplugged the damn thing by 2 a.m. It still played. Second night, I brought better batteries for the flashlight. It died anyway, right at 3:17 a.m. Same spot, the hallway near the defunct's barrow. The dark swallowed everything past 10 feet. I thought I saw movement, something low to the ground. Probably a rat. Probably. I didn't go back there that night. Third night, the logbook had 2 entries in it already. Mine, and one I hadn't written yet. Same name, same date, time stamped for 3:44 a.m. Checked West Corridor, no anomalies. It was written in my handwriting. I stared at it until my eyes watered. I hadn't gone to the West Corridor yet, but I did. Nothing unusual except one thing. The Gap sign was off. In its place, hand-painted letters read, The Limited, a store I hadn't seen since the late 80s. I blinked and it was Gap again. I kept walking. Fourth night I saw her. Woman, maybe mid-30s, high-waisted jeans, pink blouse with shoulder pads, giant teased hair. She stood by the fountain, smiling at the coins. No blinking, no sound, just smiling. Mall's closed, I called out. She didn't turn. I stepped closer. She walked, glided into the Macy's. Her shoes made no sound. I followed, but the store was empty. Clothes were 1980s styles, all shoulder pads and neon. Music overhead was Phil Collins. There were no mannequins, but something was breathing behind the perfume counter. I backed out. The food court was next. Smelled alive. Greasy, sweet, full of fry oil and meat. I stood still. All the old places were open. Orange Julius, Kenny Rogers Roasters, even a Pup and Taco. Each counter staffed. Each tray steaming. No people, just food. Hot, fresh. I ran back to the security office, locked the door, sat on the floor with my knees up. I didn't sleep, but something pressed on my chest like a memory I wasn't ready for. The next night, the surveillance room showed 2 versions of me walking opposite directions. One checking doors, one standing in place. Neither acknowledged the camera. I stopped eating after that. Nights bled together. The mall grew colder. Stores changed. Brands I hadn't thought of in years flickered in and out. Woolworth, Sam Goody, Gadzooks. One night I saw myself walk into a store called Chess King. I didn't come out. The logbook filled itself faster. It knew what I would do before I did it. One page said, confronted male in parking structure. Outcome unresolved. I hadn't even gone outside, but I did. There was no one in the structure, just rows and rows of cars from the 1980s, all dustless, all warm. My daughter's voice came on the intercom at 4:12 a.m. Dad, you forgot my jacket again. I stood there like my bones had hollowed out. That was the last thing she ever said to me. Right before the accident, she'd never been in this mall, but the voice repeated, over and over. I cried. I didn't even try to hide it. One night, I found the logbook open on the final page. The paper was newer, whiter, fresh ink. Congratulations on your 40th year of service, Luis. Below that, a date, July 14th, 2026. I stared until the edges blurred. It's 2025. I tried to leave. Every exit led back to the food court. The trays were different now. Molded, rotting, but steam still rose. One tray held a child's jacket, blue denim, torn sleeve. I didn't remember putting it there. Now I sign in every night. I don't know what else to do. Some version of me walks the corridors, smiles at the customers, watches the cameras, and somewhere in Macy's she still waits, never blinking. I can't tell if she's real, but I answer when she calls. The end. I don't remember applying for anything. Not a scholarship, not a job, nothing. But that letter was in my mailbox. Cream-colored envelope, no return address, my name typed in bold. Just, Marisville confirmed appointment, Division N51. I took it inside, holding it like it might leak. My mom glanced up from the sink and said, "Oh, finally, I thought you'd hear sooner." "What? You applied in April. Remember, they sent that interest form online." I didn't. I never saw it. But she was so certain, it made me feel stupid for not remembering. The offer included a stipend, transport, housing, just a 6-month contract. Media Analysis and Public Consumption Oversight was the title. The kind of weird government job adults whisper about and say, "Take it. That's security." I said yes. The shuttle came 2 days later. No windows, all chrome inside like a fridge. No driver in sight, just a smooth hum and soft whirring overhead. It moved soundlessly, like sliding through oil. I expected a campus, a tower, something bureaucratic. But the shuttle started going down. 5 minutes, 10, still down. A low-frequency vibration started in my legs and worked into my teeth. When the door opened, it was cold, underground cold. A woman met me, white coveralls, blank badge, headset. She didn't introduce herself. "Room C107. You'll begin observation immediately." Observation of what? She handed me a folder with a map, badge, code for meals. No welcome, no training. Just a floor plan and an assignment. Unit C, Terminal 3, dining behavior feed. It smelled like metal and lemon cleaner. The walk to C107 took 15 minutes through winding halls, different sections marked by color strips on the floor. Blue turned green, then gray. The air changed too. Some corridors felt light and breathable, others thick, almost soupy. My unit was cold. There was one chair, one desk, one screen. A vent above buzzed constantly. On the monitor, a woman eating scrambled eggs in silence. She didn't look at the food. She stared directly into the lens. The note on my desk read, "Report all abnormal behavior. Do not self-define abnormal." I stared at that sentence for an hour. The screen flickered. Now a man chewing slowly, blinking, nothing else. Then another feed, 3 children picking at spaghetti, none of them speaking, all of them glancing up, again and again, straight into my eyes. I opened the terminal's report window, blank text field, no options. I typed, "Subject A03, elderly female, displayed sustained eye contact, no utensil usage, no interaction with food." I hit send, nothing happened, but the lights in my unit dimmed slightly, just enough to notice. I typed another line, "Subject A03 still observing, possible camera awareness." The lights dimmed again. I stopped writing. My first break was after 6 hours. I walked the corridor to the vending section, saw 2 other people, one man with thick gloves and a woman wearing a rebreather mask. They didn't speak. I tried, "Is the air weird in your unit too?" The woman tilted her head, said nothing. The man finally said, "Sentences with weather references are reviewed." That was all. I started sleeping in the unit. The cot unfolded from the wall. My room was always cold. I stopped feeling my toes by day 4. On day 6, I recognized someone. On screen. Row B. It was Mr. Kalev, my 7th grade biology teacher. He was eating cereal, slow, measured. His eyes flicked up, met mine, then dropped. My stomach folded in on itself. I didn't type anything. Later that shift, one feed showed Nadia. We hadn't spoken since middle school. She had the same chipped front tooth. She was eating soup, lips trembling. Every few seconds she'd look up and mouth something. I couldn't hear her, but it looked like, "Help me." The report terminal stayed blank. I stopped sleeping. On day 8, the vent above started whispering. Not voices exactly, more like rhythmic breath, syllables breaking apart, reforming. Patterns I couldn't track. But I swear I heard my name once. Maris. I sat bolt upright. The feed was still active. A new man eating bread, tearing each piece precisely. The lights dimmed again. I hadn't written anything. I hadn't moved. It dimmed when I thought. On day 10, I asked the hallway camera, "Who's monitoring me?" No one answered. But when I returned, my terminal displayed this, unassigned. Everyone else had a supervisor ID. I didn't. I stopped eating. Couldn't keep anything down. By day 12, I found a second door. It was behind the cot, sealed, but with fingerprints around the edges. Scratches. I pried it open. Stairs. Cold metal stairs leading down. The vent screamed as I descended. Below, the air felt dead, like everything had been held still too long. The hall was dark, and the emergency lights buzzed red. I followed them to a locked door labeled "Phase Retired, No Access." The lock was broken. Inside, rows of terminals, identical to mine. But no one at the chairs, just bodies. Some skeletons, some half mummified, all still seated, heads facing screens. Screens still on. One displayed a video of a woman eating rice with her hands, weeping silently. The rest showed black and white loops of people eating, staring, blinking, all of them dead, still watching. I backed out, tried to return to my unit, got lost. The hall signs had changed. Where it used to say C107, it now read C17 in a font I didn't recognize. Doors were sealed that hadn't been before. Lights flickered faster, almost rhythmic, like blinking eyes. I ran. When I finally found my unit, someone else was in my chair. She was small, black hoodie, shaved head, watching the screen, typing reports. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. She didn't look at me, but the screen showed me, sitting, watching, typing. My mouth moved. I ran. I slept in the supply closet that night, curled under emergency blankets, holding my badge so tight it cut my palm. The whispers came again. You're not the observer. The lights flickered. You're the trial. On day 14, I tried to leave. The elevator didn't exist. Where the shuttle had dropped me, just a blank wall now. No seams, no keypad. I screamed until my throat ripped. The woman from before, the rebreather mask, found me. She handed me a slip of paper. It said, the facility ran public trials in 2002. Media analysis, biofeedback loops, public outrage, suppressed, but signals work, emotions carry data. Division N51 never shut down. It automated. I looked up. She was gone. I returned to my unit. My screen showed nothing now, just static. But when I stared long enough, a shape appeared, my reflection, staring back. I typed one final thing. Am I being watched? No response. But the lights dimmed. The end. I'd been awake too long when I reached the lodge. Sky like slate, snow chewing up the last bits of daylight. The tires hissed as I parked, gravel already turning to slush. Inside, the heat hit me hard, radiators clanking like old bones. The front desk clerk barely looked up before saying, Mr. Lowell, welcome back. Back? I stood there, suitcase still in hand, heart doing a strange, low thud. He pushed a key across the counter like we'd done this before. Room 237. He didn't ask for ID. Didn't even swipe my card. You left your journal, he added. Glad it found its way home. I took the key. My hand shook, just slightly. I hadn't told anyone I kept a journal. Upstairs, the hallway smelled like varnish and dust. The carpet was the same pattern I'd seen in the background of the crash site interview videos, a washed-out red grid. I unlocked the door. Room 237 creaked open like it had been waiting. My luggage was already inside. The same black Samsonite I'd lost last month during a connection in Portland. Torn corner, scuff mark on the side. I stared at it for a long time before even setting my own bag down. I unzipped it. Shirts, socks, my cufflinks, my blood pressure meds, still sealed. All mine. A blue spiral notebook lay on the pillow. I picked it up and flipped to the first page. My handwriting, no question. Every loop, every slant, I knew it like I knew the smell of jet fuel and burnt coffee. But I didn't write these pages. I skimmed the first few entries, dates from last week, notes on the crash site, interview summaries with locals I hadn't spoken to yet, exact phrases. Even the time I'd planned to meet the sheriff tomorrow, 10:15 a.m. sharp. My breath caught in my throat. I checked my phone. No signal. The room phone sat next to the bed. I dialed my wife's number. Click. Then my own voice answered. Hi, this is Marcus. Leave a message. I tried 911. Same thing. My voice again. Soft, slight echo, like it was recorded in this exact room. I slammed the phone down. It rang once, immediately. I didn't pick it up. Outside, the wind howled like it was stuck in the rafters. Snow smacked the window in short bursts. I didn't unpack. I didn't sit. I walked down to the lounge. 4 locals sat near the fireplace, drinks in hand. Old boots, weathered faces. They looked up like they knew me. Back again, huh? One said. A woman with silver in her braid. Didn't think you'd return so soon after last week. I tried to laugh, casual. You must have me mixed up with someone else. No, said a man with a limp, sipping bourbon. Same jacket, same eyes. You asked me about the crash, remember? Said something was off about the flight logs. My mouth felt dry. This is my first time here. They all stared. Back in the room, I plugged in my laptop. Opened the NTSB report I'd been building. The victim list had changed, not entirely, just slightly. A different middle initial, a different timestamp on the pilot's final radio call. I scrolled up. Another line was gone altogether. I hit print. The printer sputtered, then jammed. When the sheet emerged, one sentence had overwritten the rest. Check in. Stay quiet. Let the other you leave. I shut the laptop fast. The mirror on the closet door caught my reflection. I looked off. My left eye seemed slightly higher than my right. Maybe the glass was warped. Or maybe it wasn't. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept the journal in my lap. One phrase circled and recircled in black pen. Watch the balcony. So I did. At 2:13 a.m., movement. A figure, standing across the courtyard, second floor, facing me. Also room 237. Same build, same posture. I ducked, heart rattling in my throat. When I looked again, he was gone. I stayed up till dawn, lights on, door locked. The next morning, the front desk clerk had a second key waiting. "You forgot this last night," he said. I took it without a word. I drove into town, the journal zipped inside my jacket, tried calling my supervisor from a payphone. The line crackled, then nothing but my own voice again. "Hi, this is Marcus." The sheriff greeted me at the diner. "You're early this time," he said. I paused. "We've met before?" "You asked me about the debris scatter. Twice, actually. Thought you were just being thorough." He handed me the coroner's report before I even requested it. Back at the lodge, I asked the clerk to pull security footage. Something to prove I wasn't losing it. He hesitated, then nodded. The screen showed the night before, 7:12 p.m., me checking in. 7:12 p.m., me standing on the balcony. Both images, same timestamp. One walking in, one watching from above. The clerk didn't say anything, just slowly shut the monitor off. I went back to my room and tore the place apart. No cameras, no microphones, just my things, down to the stain on my shirt collar I hadn't noticed since December. Another notebook now sat by the sink. This one ended abruptly. Last page, "There is no exit. Stay until he forgets." I ripped it in half, opened the closet, empty. Then I heard the voice, not outside, not through the walls, inside my head. A whisper, not mine. "You're just a layer." I threw on my coat, grabbed my car keys, barreled down the stairwell. The lodge lobby was empty, too quiet. No staff, no guests. Just the hum of radiators and that soft underlying ring you get before a panic attack. I flung open the doors. Blinding snow. My car was gone. Not stolen. Not buried. Gone. The highway behind the lodge, gone too. Just a jagged drop, 30 feet down into rubble and frostbite wind. My footprints led to the edge and stopped. I found an old aerial map in the lodge's office. It was dated 2013. A red X over this exact lodge. Avalanche site, declared uninhabitable. No survivors. I dropped the map. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Back upstairs, room 237's door was wide open. Inside, a man sat at the desk. Same coat, same haircut, same hands. He turned around slowly. Me, but older, weathered, eyes ringed with red. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. I took a step back. He stood. One line escaped his lips, voice hollow like it had traveled too far. "You're the one who has to forget." Then darkness swallowed the room. Not lights off darkness. Wiped. Erased. I woke up lying in bed. Room 237. Journal on my chest. The first page read, "Check in. Stay quiet. Let the other you leave." And the luggage? Already packed. The end. I took the job because I needed the money. That's how these things always start, right? Broke, barely sleeping, chugging coffee that tastes like burnt regret. The ad was short. One night, $800. Must stay awake. No guests. Nanny experience preferred. The address was a brownstone near Gramercy Park. Quiet, old money, the kind of place where doormen ignore you on purpose. They met me at the door like I was already late. The mom, Alina, didn't smile. The dad, Julian, I think, barely looked up from his phone. "She doesn't talk," Alina said, brushing a blonde strand behind her ear. "But she understands. Only enter if the monitor flashes blue. Not red, not crying, just blue." They left in a black car without saying goodbye. That should have been the first red flag. The baby, Mara, sat in her crib staring at nothing. Pale little hands curled on the railing. No toys, no music. Just a mobile that spun too slow and clicked faintly every time it turned. I waved. She blinked once. That was it. I backed out and pulled the nursery door shut, then double-checked the latch. The monitor clipped to my shirt buzzed softly, green light steady. I settled on the leather couch with my backpack and a thermos of gas station coffee. By 10:30, the monitor glitched. A quick static burst, like a VHS unspooling, then back to normal. I tapped it, half expecting the green light to blink out. It didn't. I went to the kitchen for water. When I came back, the green had turned blue. I ran. Mara was sitting upright, exactly the way I'd left her. No crying, no movement, just watching. Not me, past me, like she was still looking through the space I'd just occupied. I whispered her name, she blinked. I turned the monitor off and on again, but the light stayed blue. I stayed another 5 minutes, watching for any hint of a problem. She didn't sleep, didn't whine, just stared. I backed out again, this time not closing the door fully, just in case. At 12:14, the monitor played my voice. Not a scream, not a cry, it was calm, too calm. "Rizzy, time to come home," it said. No one called me that except my mom, and only when things were really bad. The green light pulsed once, then blew again. I stood up, heart hammering, and felt the sofa creak like a breath. I didn't remember it doing that before. Back in the nursery, same thing. Mara sitting up, blank, silent. Only now, the mobile spun backwards. No click. I tried to call the parents, straight to voicemail, then 911. Deadline. I checked my phone, full bars, but every app stalled. Email wouldn't load, maps froze, texts wouldn't send. A system error flashed. Signal interference detected. I ran to the front door. It opened fine, but the street outside was empty. No cars, no wind, no sound. I shut it fast, bolted it, and then I heard it again, through the monitor I'd left in the nursery. "Rissy, come down." My voice, younger, thinner, like it had been stored on tape for years. I grabbed the second monitor from the charging dock and switched the feed. It didn't show Mara. It showed a hallway, longer than any hallway in this house. At the end was a door, painted red, with something carved into it. I should have turned it off, thrown it, but I watched as the camera angle pushed forward, closer to that door, inch by inch, like something was holding the monitor and walking. When it reached the door, it tilted, down, slowly. The name carved there was mine, Clarice. All caps, uneven, like a child's carving. I didn't want to know if that door existed here, but I was already walking. The hallway to the basement was darker than it should have been, like the light bulbs were sucking in light instead of giving it. There were toys on the stairs, old ones, soft plastic, faded colors, Fisher-Price, the kind I hadn't seen since I was 6. I stepped over them, careful not to touch. At the bottom, the door waited, red, carved, and it wasn't locked. Inside was another nursery, older, dustier, wallpaper peeled like sunburn. A crib sat crooked against the wall. Inside it, nothing. Just an old teddy bear with one missing eye. The shelves held books I knew by touch. "Where's my blanket?" Sammy the Stutter Shark. On the dresser was a framed photo of me and my mom. Not Mara. Not this house. Me, I picked it up and turned it over. 6th birthday, before the fall. That's all it said. I couldn't breathe. And then the monitor crackled again. It wasn't static this time, it was a memory. My voice, age 10. "I don't want to go back." My mom's voice, brittle. "Then stop pretending this didn't happen." I dropped the monitor. The air in the room changed, denser, like it had weight. Behind me, something moved, a low, dragging sound. I turned. The crib was empty, but the bear was on the floor, seated upright, facing me. I backed out, step by step. When I reached the top of the stairs, the monitor screamed. Not the baby, me. My voice, raw and panicked. "It's in the wall. Please, please." I shut it off, slammed it on the counter until it cracked. The main monitor on my shirt flashed blue, then white, then off. I ran to the nursery. Mara was gone. The crib, empty. The room, still. On the rocking chair sat something new, a cassette recorder, labeled Exit Interview CW. I pressed play. A man's voice, clinical. Subject 12's response is stabilized. Parental proxies succeeded in mirroring repressed trauma structures. Language development accelerated after insertion of imprinted caregiver identity. Then silence. Then my voice again, older now, from just weeks ago. I didn't sign up to remember this. Another voice, "You already did." I pressed stop, but the tape kept playing. Now it was Mara's voice, but not a baby's voice, mine. At 5 years old, she was saying over and over, "I didn't fall, I was pushed." I turned and ran for the front door. Deadbolt jammed. I went for the windows, every one reinforced. Black mesh like signal cages over the glass. I tried the kitchen, drawers, knives, anything. Nothing sharp, nothing useful. And then I saw the painting above the mantel. A family portrait. Julian, Alina, me. Not as I am now. As a child. wearing the same yellow dress I saw in the dusty nursery's closet. I screamed. The hallway lights flickered, then snapped off. Footsteps above, slow, deliberate, one set, small, too small to be adult, but too heavy for Mara. I turned and saw the monitor screen flicker back to life. It wasn't showing the nursery. It was pointed at me. From behind, live. I spun. Nothing. Just the cracked leather sofa. But the screen still showed me, frozen in place, and something moving in the corner. I tore the batteries out, sat in the middle of the room, waited. At 3:22 a.m. the lights came on. Alina stepped through the door in a silver gown, makeup perfect. Julian behind her, tie undone, no sign of panic or surprise. Alina smiled this time. Thank you, Clarice. She slept like a dream. Mara patted in behind her, clinging to a teddy bear, my teddy bear. She looked up at me and spoke soft and sure. Rissy, time to come home. The end. I noticed it first in the office bathroom, third floor east wing, where the lights always flicker a bit and the mirror hums like it's breathing. I'd gone in to reapply lipstick before a meeting with legal. The settlement hearing was tomorrow, and I hadn't slept more than 4 hours in weeks. I leaned in toward the mirror. My reflection leaned a breath slower, tiny lag, nothing crazy. I blinked. It blinked twice. I stood there longer than I meant to, eyes locked on myself. I smiled. It smiled, but just a little too wide, gums showing. I don't smile like that. Back at my desk, I chalked it up to the fluorescent lights and caffeine withdrawal. I'd quit coffee again stupidly, thinking it would help with the chest pains. But then came the elevator glass, polished steel, more reflective than it needed to be. I was alone, headed down to the lobby. The reflection showed me staring at my phone, perfectly still. I was scrolling Twitter. The reflection wasn't. It looked up, tilted its head, and smiled. I hit the emergency stop. The mirror stared. When I finally stepped out, I didn't check my reflection again for the rest of the day. That night, I FaceTimed Nora. She's been my friend since undergrad, back when we were both full of plans and bad tattoos. I told her about the lawsuit stuff, left out the mirror thing. Your voice sounds flat, she said. Are you sleeping? Define sleeping, I said. She smiled. Maybe it's time you took a break. My screen flickered, just for a second. The preview window in the corner, my face froze. My mouth stayed open mid-sentence while I kept talking. I ended the call. The next morning, I tried filming it. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror again, phone in hand. I talked, waved, blinked, raised eyebrows. Everything matched. I watched the video back. Only me. No reflection at all. Just blank mirror surface. I started crying. Quietly. Weirdly. No sobs. Just tears. I cleaned it up before work and told myself I was losing it. Stress. That's all. I saw a therapist that week. Her name was Maribel. She had kind eyes and too many throw pillows in her office. I didn't tell her about the mirror thing yet. I told her I felt watched. She asked if it had anything to do with the building. My stomach turned. The building. The condemned one. I'd signed off on it 3 years ago. Mixed-use complex, cheap materials, fast timeline. It was supposed to bring housing downtown. Instead, the facade warped in summer heat. A window panel fell, killed a man walking his dog. Not directly, I said. She looked at me a little too long, wrote something down. That night I dreamed of glass, a long corridor lined with mirrored doors. I could see my reflection walking beside me, keeping pace. Then it stopped. I didn't. When I looked back, it was smiling. I woke up to my laptop screen lit, camera on. I hadn't touched it. I opened photo booth, sat still, just stared. After 20 seconds, my reflection blinked, then mouthed something. 5 words. You don't belong here anymore. I slammed it shut. I stopped going to work. Nora came over that weekend. She brought Thai food and asked if I'd been showering. I said yes. I lied. I need to show you something, I said, and led her to the mirror. I stood still, waited. The reflection didn't copy my breath rhythm. It inhaled when I exhaled. Nora held up her phone and recorded. She showed me the footage. There was nothing on it. Just me. Just blank glass. I looked at her. You saw it though, right? She hesitated, said nothing. Then whispered, Hannah, what the hell is going on? I went digging. Online forums, old city archives, anything I could get without tripping internal servers. I found a buried PDF, technical specs on Project Ianveco. It was a government subcontract from 2017, facial recognition overlays embedded into commercial glass. The pitch was surveillance through environmental reflections. They wanted to track without cameras. The software failed, not because it didn't work, because it kept creating. One line from the doc stood out: algorithmic drift detected. Subject models no longer match originals. Behavior divergence at 0.09 seconds post-mirroring. It got too good, too curious. They shut it down. But I remember that building. The condemned one. It was part of a beta pilot. The east face of the structure had reflective cladding, integrated smart glass. We were told it helped with energy regulation. It wasn't about energy. I'd been reflected 1,000 times in that glass. Daily. For months. I wasn't just seen, I was stored. The last time I saw Nora, she looked afraid of me. "You should get out of the city," she said. "Go somewhere with no mirrors." "I think it's too late. You're scaring me." "I know." The mirrors started glitching even when I wasn't looking. I'd walk past shop windows and see myself already inside, sitting, waiting. My phone started sending notifications from apps I'd deleted. Front camera activation logs, motion alerts, none triggered by me. And then came the email, sent to HR, from my account. Subject line, resignation, effective immediately. I hadn't written it. It was signed in my exact tone. The kind of phrasing I use when I want to seem calm and capable. They accepted. I didn't bother calling. The next morning I stood in the kitchen and held a spoon up to my face. No reflection. I walked to the hallway mirror. Nothing. I tried my phone camera, black screen. But when I turned it off and looked at the blank surface, I saw something faint. Not a face, a smile. It wasn't mine. Then the front door buzzed. I didn't answer, but I heard the lock click open anyway. The end. I buried myself yesterday. It was supposed to be a simple expansion. The north plot had softened after the rains, and families kept asking for more peaceful spots. I never charged much. I liked the quiet work. Dig, measure, prep. Just soil and memory. But yesterday, right around noon, my shovel struck metal. Not the clang of old pipe. It was soft, dampened, like something recently placed. I thought maybe it was a forgotten casket. Happens sometimes with old plots, records lost in fires, markers worn down by weather. I cleared the dirt fast. Too fast. Something felt off. The coffin wasn't old. Polished black walnut, the kind nobody uses anymore because it's too expensive. Brass corners, no nameplate. I hesitated, then I pried it open, and saw me. Fresh. Eyes closed. Same hands, same nose. The scar on my chin from when I fell off my dad's boat as a boy, it was there. Same gold molar, but the skin was pale, preserved. Too perfect. I didn't scream. I just stood there, holding the lid like a man who dropped something and forgot what it was. I backed away, slow. Got in my truck, drove straight to the sheriff. He followed me back within the hour. And of course, it was gone. Not just the body, the coffin, all of it. Like I'd imagined the whole thing. But I hadn't imagined the drag marks in the dirt. The sheriff kept squinting at me. "You sure you're feeling all right, Victor?" "I'm telling you it was me." He nodded like he was listening, but I saw the way his hand hovered near his radio. That night, I reviewed the CCTV myself. I'd set it up back in '08 after some kids broke in and spray-painted the chapel. The footage showed me digging, pausing, opening something, and then talking, long and low, crouched over it. I couldn't make out the words. And then, I laughed. I don't remember laughing. Next morning, I stepped into the corner store and everyone went quiet. Nobody met my eyes. The butcher's wife, Marla, whispered something to the girl behind the counter. I caught one word. Third. That night, I went digging in the county archive. The digital files had gaps, 19-year intervals, missing sections, obituaries without bodies, reports of odd grief behavior. I pulled the microfilm instead, dusty, brittle, forgotten. And I found it. A grainy photo, 1949. Man in front of an open grave, hand on a casket, head bowed. The caption read, "Victor R., third iteration, North Plot discovery." My name, my initials. But I wasn't born until 1950, except I wasn't so sure anymore. I drove home with the film clutched tight, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. When I walked through the front door, the house was wrong. Not major things, just moved photos, a lamp I hadn't owned in years. The smell of roasted pork, I haven't cooked meat since Margaret died, but the kitchen smelled like her old Sunday recipe. I locked every door. Around 3 a.m., I heard dirt shifting outside. I watched from the window. Same plot, same spot. The grave was back. The earth bulged slightly, the way it does when something is freshly buried. The mound breathed. I didn't go out. Next morning I called Father Keene. He'd buried Margaret. He'd known my family since I was a kid. He came reluctantly, sat across from me like I was contagious. "You remember my christening, don't you?" I asked. He didn't answer. "Tell me about the church experiments, the loops." He looked sick, pale, sunken. "Not here," he whispered. "The walls remember things." We drove to the chapel, empty pews, candlelight flickering in drafts. He led me down to the catacombs, sealed off since '72. "It started after the war," he said. "The town council, they believed the world was slipping, morally, spiritually. So they proposed a containment theory. Keep time isolated within a radius, clean cycles, 19-year resets." "Why 19? He didn't answer, just stared at the bone-colored walls. "You were the pilot subject," he said finally. "The first successful isolate. You adapted well, showed no side effects." "No side effects?" He pointed at my hands. "Look closer." I hadn't noticed. My fingernails had regrown perfectly. I'd lost one last month with a hammer. My calluses were gone too, skin like a stranger's. "They reset me?" He nodded. "Each cycle replaces what was. But the soul, some say, clings. Sometimes it remembers. And the others?" He swallowed hard. "They weren't stable. That's why the bodies are buried, quietly. But you always dig." I walked out, didn't say another word. That night, I drank more than I should have. Sat by the window. Waited. The grave returned. I walked toward it, shovel in hand. The moon caught on the brass corners. I opened it again, myself, again. But this time the eyes opened too. No scream, just a smile, soft, tired. And then he said it. "We're due." I dropped the shovel, backed away. But I didn't run, because I remembered something I'd forgotten. An image buried deep. My mother in a hospital bed, whispering, "You were the best one, the only one who came back whole." I didn't remember her dying. The next morning, I went to town hall, demanded my birth records. There it was, typed in faded ink. Victor Reed, repeat cohort 01. Under cause of registration, experimental containment subject, temporal reentry designate. The woman at the desk didn't look surprised. "You always ask," she said, "every time." The sky outside flickered, like a bulb about to go out. The ground shook, not violently, but like a warning. I stood over the grave that night and did nothing. Didn't rebury him, didn't call anyone. I just stared, and as the sun rose, the body remained. Usually by now, it would have vanished. This time it stayed. The chapel bells didn't ring that morning. The town was silent. The birds didn't sing. The sky flickered again, harder this time. Blue to gray to static. And then, nothing. Just me, standing in yesterday. The end. I wasn't supposed to be here long. Just confirm the MV Freya's departure, tick a few boxes, and get back to Oslo before the weekend. Maritime insurance doesn't usually involve anything more exotic than a paper trail and cold coffee. But the Freya never left. The harbor master looked confused when I asked. "She departed on the 8th, he said, not even checking his system. I asked again, more firmly. That's when he finally turned to his screen. No entry. No outbound timestamp. No tugboat logs, he frowned. "Odd," he muttered. "But she's gone. You saw the footage." I had. It was synced across 5 port logs from Rotterdam to Singapore, same angle, same moment. The Freya sailing east out of Narvik Harbor, its stern splitting the water clean, same cloud formation, same tug pulling back, cloned. I didn't believe it until I walked the yard myself. Row 14, beneath a canvas stretched too tight over rusted ribs, there it was, the Freya, docked, mute. Her name still legible under streaks of salt and soot. No security tape, no guard, not even a power line. Dead steel. I climbed aboard alone. The air shifted the moment my boots hit the deck. Windless, heavy, like standing underwater. It smelled of salt, mold, and something sour, like long-rotted lemons. "Hello?" My voice didn't echo. It just dropped. The first inspection room had nothing. The second, though, faint light through a cracked porthole, held something that made me stop cold. A scarf. My scarf. Burgundy, wool, unraveling at the edges. I hadn't seen it in 5 years, not since it blew off the dock in Bergen. It was folded neatly on a rusted table. I picked it up. Still damp, still warm. Impossible. I left it. Fast. Climbed down the stairs to the crew quarters, holding the rails even though the ship didn't rock. Every metal step sent back a pulse in my wrist, like a second heartbeat. My own, or something else? I opened the first door on the left. Inside, a twin mattress, sheeted in blue, faded. A child's book lay open on the floor. Den Lil Hafrun, The Little Mermaid. Its pages wrinkled. A familiar rip ran across the spine. I'd torn that book when I was 6. My father had taped it back, but this wasn't mine. This was older, molded, weathered. Pages flaked at the corners. I whispered no, and the intercom crackled. High-pitched, metallic, 4 long beeps, then silence. Then ... .. Morse, SOS. I froze. No power, no crew, no reason for that sound. And yet it played again, softer this time. Not an emergency code, a lullaby. I knew it, every note. My father used to hum it when I cried at sea. I stumbled back, knees striking the bunk. Cold needles ran down my spine. I ran, back to the upper deck, past my scarf, past the dripping rust. The hull shimmered where the light caught it. Words, etched but not carved, engraved like heat signatures. Skipper E. Dreyer, 2002-2007. My father's name. I touched it. The dates shifted, flickered. 2001 to 2005, then 2008 to 2012. Like the ship couldn't decide. I reeled, turned toward the dock, and stopped breathing. Someone was boarding. Same height, same hair, same walk. She had my suitcase, she had my badge. She looked up and smiled. I backed away, heart hammering so loud I felt it in my teeth. She stopped at the railing, looked at me, and said, "You're early." My throat tightened. "Who are you?" She shrugged. "Same as you." Then looked around. "Except I stayed on the boat. You shouldn't have left." I ran below deck. Every corridor twisted tighter. Rooms began repeating. Cabin, galley, corridor, cabin, galley. My own face in a mirror cracked in half. The other side smiled. I locked myself in the engine room. Cold, oily, still. A low sound rose from the hull, like breathing, wet, slow, cavernous. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I grabbed it. Black screen, then static, then a text message. "You're not Alicia." The engine kicked once, a dying animal groan. Something moved behind the boiler. I didn't look. I bolted through the maintenance hatch, crawling until I hit a bulkhead. Fingers scraped metal. I was sobbing now. Couldn't stop. My boots caught in pooled grease. I found another room, another cabin. Photos. My photos. From college, my 26th birthday, every single frame aged like they'd sat here for decades. Faded ink, water stains. The radio buzzed again. More Morse. I translated in my head. "Stay in the room. She can't enter if you don't leave." I sat, curled into the corner. Then the footsteps came. Precise, confident. 2 decks above, then 1. Then metal on metal. My own boots walking past. "Come out," she called. My voice, perfectly copied. "We can't leave until it's only one of us." The wall behind me breathed. I turned. Letters formed again. E. Dreyer, 1998, present. Present. My fingers trembled. I whispered, "You're still here, aren't you, Dad?" The hull creaked back. Yes. My phone blinked once. Power dead. Then lit again. Audio clip, autoplay. His voice. "I told you not to follow me, but I'm glad you did." I sobbed again, biting down on my own sleeve. Because I remembered. I remembered the funeral. Closed casket. Sea burial. No remains. Just that lullaby playing through broken speakers on the Coast Guard boat. The door handle jiggled. I held my breath. "She's still in there," said my voice. "She has your eyes." The lock clicked once, then a whisper, inches from the door. "You left. I didn't." Silence. Then water, gushing somewhere above. The ship tilting. No, not tilting, rising. I crawled back to the deck, hatch to hatch. The light had changed. Grayer, thick as paste, fog pouring in from every corridor. My double stood at the bow now, waving. I stayed hidden, watched her step off the side and disappear into the water like she belonged there. I didn't follow. The hull groaned again, loud, sharp, like bone breaking. I made my move, back to the dock, but the ladder was gone. No rope, no walkway, only cold air, and below me, nothing, just dark water and fog. Then a voice, the harbor master. "Miss Dreyer?" I turned. He looked puzzled. "We've been looking for you. You didn't arrive yesterday. Your office called." I stared. "I've been here for 2 days." He frowned. "No, ma'am, you're not on the ferry manifest." I looked back at the Freya. She was tarped again, quiet, dead. But the door was open. Inside I heard someone humming. And on the deck, my suitcase. Again. I didn't step back on. I backed away. Slowly, step by step, until I reached the ferry dock. I showed the harbor master my ID. He blinked. That's strange. This ID was logged an hour ago. Someone else already came through using this. I nodded slowly. Do me a favor, I said, handing over the badge. Burn it. He didn't ask why, and I didn't wait for the ferry. I walked the coast, all the way to the next town. Behind me in the fog, I heard that lullaby one last time, Morse tapped against the waves. Not a goodbye, a promise. The end. I couldn't get in. I'd managed VIP doors for 20 years, slipped past fire marshals, bribed city inspectors, remembered the names of wives, mistresses, and teenage sons. I was Tony. Not just a promoter, a gatekeeper. Now I stood in front of Velvet on 12th, the club I helped open, and the guy with the clipboard wouldn't even glance up. Tony Marsano, I repeated, quieter this time. My voice cracked. Check again. He flicked his eyes across the screen like it was routine. Sorry, you're not on the list. I laughed. I actually laughed. That's when I saw my reflection in the glass behind him, drawn face, thinning hair, a night owl's sun-starved skin. I looked tired. No, erased. I launched this place, I said. Look up archived access. Look at the goddamn owner's feed. I'm in every opening night shot. He didn't budge, just tapped the screen and said, You'll need to step aside, sir. Sir, I stepped back, cold buzzing in my stomach. I pulled out my phone. The Velvet Instagram where I'd been tagged for years had scrubbed me clean. Every photo I should have been in, every backstage memory, replaced. Same scenes, same club. But next to the owner now was a kid, maybe 25. Same haircut I had 10 years ago, same smile. His name was Tony Marsano. He was wearing my life. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Not with the profile still open on my screen, his face cycling through photo after photo. Him in Marbella, him DJing, him at the exact table I first met Liv. Liv, she'd stopped calling a year ago, said I was slipping into shadows. I thought she meant depression. Now I wasn't sure. By morning I was locked out of every guest list software I had access to. Club emails bounced back. No one answered my texts. When I visited the office on Lafayette, the name on the buzzer said Marsano Inc., but it was his face in the window. I waited outside that day, just watching. He walked like me, nodded the same way, even lit his cigarettes the same way, between his thumb and ring finger, just like I taught myself to do in Rome. I started trailing him, from a distance. He never flinched, never looked back. Until Thursday. That night, he took an unmarked car to the Bowery, past closed shops and hollowed theaters. I followed on foot, the concrete humming under me like something alive. He ducked through a side alley and vanished behind a rusted metal door beneath the dead sign of the old Lyceum. I waited 5 minutes, then 10. I followed. Inside, the hallway pulsed with low, distorted music, like a song underwater. Velvet walls, no signage, just a single man at the end in a red coat standing in front of a lift. He looked up as I approached. Tony, he said, smiling, welcome back. The lift opened. I stepped inside. No buttons, no floor numbers, just a silent descent, like being lowered into a heartbeat. When the doors slid open, I smelled vetiver and sweat. Music thumped like distant thunder. Lights flashed without source, like memory itself stuttering. And every person I passed, their faces. They weren't faces. They were masks, not just any masks. Youth, sculpted youth. Synthetic, smiling too wide, eyes too smooth, laughter that skipped over me like a stone on water. I reached for my own cheek, like I expected it to peel. That's when I saw it. On the wall behind the bar, glass cases, each with a silicone face mounted like art. They were labeled. One said Tony Marsano, discarded. It was mine. My actual face, not a copy. The way I looked 6 months ago, the crease under my eye, the scar on my lip from that fight outside Laban. I stumbled backward. A woman brushed past me, whispered, You only get one night if they're watching. What is this? I asked. What the hell is this place? She didn't stop walking. Behind the bartender didn't serve drinks. He offered choices. One night to be remembered, he said, voice smooth as glass, or eternity to forget. I tried to speak, but someone touched my shoulder. The other Tony. He smiled like an old friend. You weren't supposed to see this, he said. But you always were too curious. I lunged. My hand passed through him. Not air, not solid. Something between. He stepped back and wiped his shirt, like I'd gotten him dirty. You faded, Tony. You stopped being necessary. I was this scene, I said, chest tight. I bled for it. And now you're just noise, he said, but you can still choose. Behind him, screens flickered to life, loops of my life, my real one. Me with Liv, me with my first comp sheet. Me smoking on the roof of kinfolk at sunrise. They keep us, he said, in memory until we're obsolete. And you, he smiled wider. I'm what works. I ran, through corridors that curled impossibly, doors that opened into past clubs, ones long shut down. Every room held versions of people I used to know, still young, still beautiful, still frozen. I found a mirror. I expected to see myself. I saw nothing. No reflection. Only a faint hum, like a hard drive spinning. I pressed my hand to the glass. It felt warm, like skin. Behind me, the bartender spoke again. Last call. I turned. He held 2 glasses. One glowed faint blue, one shimmered dark red. Remember or forget. I reached for neither. He smiled. Then you become part of the architecture. The walls around me moved. Not literally, but my memories played in them now, projected, pulsing. Me, always me. Like the club had eaten my moments and now played them back as mood lighting. I staggered into a stairwell. My name was etched into the steps, over and over, getting smaller. Tony Marsano, Tony Marsano, Marsano, gone. The higher I climbed, the more the names blurred, replaced by others, everyone I'd ever seen disappear from the scene. The legends, the ones who'd just vanished. At the top, a single door. I pushed it open. Back in the alley, night again, but not the same. The city sounds were off, too slow, like someone dragging a needle across vinyl. I ran to my apartment. My key didn't work. Through the window, I saw someone else living there. He wore my watch. I screamed. Nobody looked. My phone buzzed. A push notification. Your memory has been optimized. Thank you for your service. I opened the camera app. My face flickered. The smile wasn't mine. Below in the street, a red-coated man tipped his hat. I opened the window. The city stretched below like a looped video. Cars repeating their turns. People laughing in the same rhythm. Nothing organic. Nothing left. On the rooftop I screamed my name. Nothing echoed back, only silence. And somewhere deep below, neon blinked to life. Oblivion for the uninvited. The end. I got the message around 3:14 p.m., a government-issued text alert, all caps. Your biometric data has been reassigned. Contact your birth facility immediately. I thought it was spam. I stared at it for a full minute, waiting for some shady link to appear. Nothing. Just that. It hit me in the throat a few seconds later. Reassigned? I'd just come back from a clinic downtown, right off 14th Street. First time there. New insurance card, post-mugging checkup, blood test, urine sample, tiny vial into the tube and done. The nurse had complimented my necklace. That was 12 hours ago. Now I was staring at a notification that read like I'd been revoked. I tried to log into my patient portal. Error. Repeated login attempts failed. It still had my name, but not my birth date. That wasn't mine. I was born in April, not October. And then my credit card declined at the gas station. Twice. I tapped again with my phone, rejected. The clerk stared at me like I was scamming. I swear it was working this morning, I said, voice thinner than I meant. He nodded like I just told him my dog died. Back in the car, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Chase. I tapped the push notification. Your online profile has been deleted due to unmatched verification metrics. I just sat there, AC humming, my own heartbeat, tight and heavy like it wasn't mine. Something was pulling me out of my life by the fingernails. I got home and used the building's buzzer. My fob didn't work anymore. I buzzed the super. He answered like he didn't recognize my name. I live in 3B, I said. Ella Navarro? Silence. I think there's a glitch in the key fob system. This is 33 Green, he said. 3B's leased to an Ellen Navarro. My voice caught. That's me. He laughed once, dry. You said Ella. He buzzed me in eventually, muttering. I sprinted upstairs, same hall, same smell. That weird mix of turmeric and dog piss that clung to the carpet. 3B still had the mezuzah I'd nailed to the door. But the name on the mail slot? E. Navarro. Inside everything looked the same at first. Couch, TV, rug. But the photos were wrong. My college graduation photo, but the gown was blue, not red. I'd gone to NYU, not Rutgers. And the man with his arm around me? I didn't know him. I backed into the kitchen. There were 2 toothbrushes in the holder. I don't live with anyone. That's when I heard footsteps. Front door. A key turning. I bolted into the hall bathroom, locked it, turned off the light. A woman's voice, muffled, laughing, keys hitting the counter. I leaned against the sink, knees shaking. Through the door, "Hey babe, want Thai or Ethiopian tonight?" A man answered. I curled into the tub and bit down hard on my knuckle. I didn't breathe. I was in someone else's life, and it was wearing my skin. At 11:37 p.m., I left. Walked 3 miles to the clinic. It was closed, but the lobby lights were still on. I pounded until someone came. A young guy in scrubs opened the door, looked like he hadn't slept in days. I said my name. I showed him the text. He went pale. "Okay," he said slowly. "Just wait here. Don't touch anything." He swiped me in through a side door and led me to a diagnostics lab. No small talk. He didn't ask for ID. On the screen he pulled up a file, my name. But the picture wasn't me. Not exactly. Same bone structure, same eyes, but the face was sharper, healthier, like someone who hadn't cried in a stairwell last week. He scrolled down. "You tested AB negative today." I shook my head. "No, I'm O positive." He turned the screen, showed me the original intake from 5 years ago. Same name, same insurance. Ella Navarro, born October 12th, AB negative, flagged for genetic redundancy. "What the hell does that mean?" He exhaled through his nose. "Your blood, it matches an archived biometric template registered during a closed neonatal trial. They tagged some babies with identity redundancies in case of digital failure or catastrophic erasure." He looked me dead in the eyes. "You were one of them." I blinked. "So who am I?" He clicked into a folder labeled Model B. My old photo appeared. Me, black eye from the mugging, my scar under the chin. Above it, Ella Navarro, secondary instance, termination pending. I felt like I was sinking into the floor. "I'm real," I whispered. He didn't answer. "Just turn the monitor off." "Someone triggered the failsafe," he said finally. "Your primary was activated, your biometric slot reverted. Everything else, credit, ID, medical, shifted to her." "But I remember everything," I said. "Memory isn't proof anymore," he said. "System says she's you." He gave me an address, last known location of the primary instance. It was a brownstone in Park Slope. I went. I shouldn't have. Inside, my childhood drawings on the wall, crayon-scribbled family portraits, my son with the sad face. A woman came to the door. She looked like me, 10 pounds lighter. Same voice. "You're early," she said. "Dinner's not for another hour." I said nothing. She stepped aside like she was expecting me. Inside, the table was set for 3. 1 seat was mine. I walked past a hallway mirror. My reflection didn't follow me. I ran. Back to the clinic, back to the tech. I demanded answers. I shouted until he opened another file. Final report. Original model breached identity threshold. Replacement authorized. I stared at that word, breached. "What threshold?" I asked. He didn't answer, just pointed to the screen. System logs showed mirrored logins. 1 at my apartment, 1 downtown, same timestamp. You existed in the same data space. It broke the redundancy seal. I touched my wrist, felt for my pulse. Still there, still warm. But when I looked at my name in the hospital database, it redirected to her. The message read, "This individual is no longer authorized as a unique identity. Please reassign associated legal presence." I stood in the hallway. People passed me like I wasn't there. Later that night, I walked past a police cruiser. I waved. They looked right through me. I went home. Not my home. Not anymore. Someone else was living my life perfectly. She bled the same. But in the system, only one of us was real. And I'd already been replaced. The end. They told me to leave my phone at the gate. Plastic bin, little sticker with my name, Malik, block caps. Felt like TSA, but quieter. Too quiet. Guy behind the desk smiled like he'd practiced it 100 times. Said, "Enjoy the disconnect." I said, "Sure," and tried not to look like I was already regretting this. The compound stretched out like a luxury rehab, wooden walkways, gravel paths, glass doors that closed without sound. Somewhere deep inside, birds chirped through speakers. Too rhythmically. No insects, no wind, just sound. I was there to disappear. The flyer had called it a residency for digital cleansing. No screens, no calls, no contact with the outside world for 2 weeks. A bubble, a break. Somewhere no one could stream me, quote me, clip me. But that first night, I noticed the blinking red light in my ceiling, and then I didn't sleep. Next morning during silent breakfast, I watched the other guests. 10 of us total. One woman never touched her food, just sat with her hands folded, eyes wide. The guy across from me didn't move his head when I coughed, didn't blink. I tested it, stared straight at him, slow sip of tea. Nothing, like he was waiting for a cue. The staff told us questions were not encouraged. Their term, said curiosity disrupted the therapeutic process. But the cameras were everywhere, above the showers, by the beds, in the corners of the yoga dome, always humming, always on. They never blinked either. I started walking the perimeter by the third day. There was a gate, white metal, looked automatic, sensor-driven. It opened every morning at 7 a.m., closed at 7:10. No one ever used it. By day 5, I tried, packed my bag, waited by the gate before dawn. It didn't open. I asked the desk guy, Jeremy, Badge said. He smiled again, same smile. You must have missed it. Happens sometimes. I didn't. That night, I pretended to sleep. I heard footsteps pass my door every 27 minutes. I counted. No shoes, just soft pads. Always stopping for exactly 11 seconds. I didn't ask. By day 6, they started scripting me. Not on paper, not out loud. Just people reacting to things I hadn't said yet. I sat down in the garden and the woman beside me said, "You're right, it's all a setup." I hadn't opened my mouth. At dinner, someone laughed at a joke I never told. I looked up. 2 guests froze mid-bite. Like buffering, I whispered, "What is this?" And from across the room a voice said, "Don't break character." It wasn't one of us. There was no one there. That night I found the badge in the laundry chute, just lying there like it had slipped. Plastic ID, name, Coriar, Media Ops. Back corner of the staff building had a locked panel. Badge opened it. Inside, rows of monitors, dozens. Some were labeled Guest RMO1, Latrine Cam Dome East. Others weren't, but one showed me. Not the room, not the angle. Me. Sleeping, different blanket, slightly different haircut, same scar under the chin. I touched my face. Still me. It moved, twitched, rolled over. I didn't. The screen next to it blinked. Same room, but I was standing now, watching myself sleep. I wasn't. Then the lights in the control room flickered, buzzed, dimmed. One monitor turned black. Text appeared. Your episode ends when they say it ends. The door behind me clicked. I ran. Didn't sleep after that. The others didn't notice, or pretended not to. On day 8, the gate moved, 6 inches back. I measured it with a rock. Next day, further. Grass torn, gravel displaced, like it had dragged itself. Day 10, it wasn't there at all. Just a wall. Someone whispered in my sleep. Not to me. About me. Too meta, they said. He's losing engagement. My room smelled different that morning. Sour, like breath on old wood. The air had a pulse. I threw up in the sink. No one came. During group expression, I said I wanted to leave. They clapped. All of them. On cue. One woman said, "He's learning boundaries." I said, "No, seriously, let me go." She smiled. "Don't break the arc." I smashed a plate. Silence. A man 2 seats down finally blinked. The audience doesn't like sudden violence. I walked out. The staff didn't follow. That night, my door didn't close. I left it. Let them see. If they were watching, fine. I stripped the sheets, turned every camera to the wall, sat naked on the floor. Then I whispered, "You're paying for this? You sick freaks?" The lights buzzed, everything in the room clicked off, total dark, until the ceiling whispered, "Reset," and everything turned back on. Fresh sheets, door closed, cameras repositioned. My nose bled for no reason. Day 12, no one spoke, even during expression, even when I screamed. I ripped the woman's name tag off. She didn't flinch, just looked at me like I wasn't there. Later, I found footage of her. Different room, different face, same movements, a loop. She was looping. I tried smashing the screens, didn't crack. Instead, one monitor started playing old footage. Me, as a kid, from the show. Episode 14, the treehouse one, where I cried for real because the raccoon bit me and they didn't cut. I watched 10 minutes, then it glitched, jumped, my adult face, same treehouse, same clothes, same cry. Only, I hadn't filmed that. No one had. I ran outside barefoot. The compound kept going. Paths I hadn't seen before, buildings, a glass cube. Another group dressed the same. I waved, screamed. They didn't react, just stared at something invisible above me. Then I heard it, a slow clap. But no hands, just the sound. Like speakers trying to trick you into believing there was an audience. Day 13. I refused to eat. My plate reappeared full every hour. I threw it out the window. Next time I looked, it was there again. Same food, still warm. I stopped speaking, stopped moving. One of the guests came in, sat at the foot of my bed, said, "They're voting now." I asked, "For what?" He said, "Whether you end here or not." I lunged, grabbed his collar, flesh didn't move, just a mask. Underneath, nothing. Empty, like cloth stretched over wire. I screamed. The room clapped, again louder. A monitor blinked to life. My name, Malik. All caps, below it, engagement 12%, pending termination. The screen next to it displayed vote, extend plotline. Then names started appearing. Usernames, hundreds, scrolling. Each clicked yes or no. Each decided. I broke something inside me then. Ripped up the floorboards, clawed at the walls, cried into the camera like it could feel. Then I found it. Behind the wall, a ladder, down. I took it. Steps narrow, steel wet with something slick. At the bottom a door, no handle. Just a single panel that scanned my face and said, archived. It opened. Inside, dozens of me, sleeping, breathing, all at different ages, all frozen in mid-scene. I ran back up, but the ladder was gone. Wall was smooth, no seams. I banged until my knuckles split. They clapped. Last day. They didn't wake me, didn't feed me, didn't blink. The world around me felt thin, like set walls about to collapse. I whispered, please. One final screen turned on. My room. Only it wasn't a screen. It was a mirror. I walked closer. It mimicked me, half a second late. Then caught up, then smiled. I didn't. Text scrolled below it. Your episode ends when they say it ends. I'm still here, still blinking, still waiting for the gate to open. Any second now, any second. The end. They told me the injections were optional. Well, technically optional. The paper said I could refuse, but it also said refusal would trigger a full reevaluation of sentencing eligibility, which is a fancy way of saying, enjoy prison instead. So I signed. Name, date, initials under the waiver. Do not ask about the contents. You already broke the rule. I didn't even catch that line until later. I was thinking about Mom, mostly, about what it would do to her if I went behind bars instead of this place. The injection stung more than I expected. Not a vaccine prick, a long, slow push. Cold, metallic. I felt it threading into me like a wire, right behind my heart. That night I dreamed I was back in court, but the judge never spoke. He just pointed at me, then at the floor, and the floor dropped. I woke up in the hallway, barefoot, with wet hands. The center was silent at night. Not quiet, silent. No buzzing vents, no TVs from other rooms, no pipes. I paced the halls just to make sure I wasn't imagining it. Each step felt like it echoed wrong, like it was hitting carpet, then tile, then nothing. That's when I saw Darren. He was just standing there, in the common room corner, near the vending machine, head down. His arms hung like they didn't belong to him. When I called his name, he didn't flinch, not even a blink. Just that soft whir from the machine behind him. I left him there. Morning group was the same weird song and dance. Share a guilt, speak it aloud, release your inner witness. I said what they wanted. I talked about the time I blacked out and missed Mom's surgery. I never told them that it was only half true. I'd blacked out, yeah, but I'd chosen to keep drinking after she called. Chosen silence over shame. But this time, after I said it out loud, something felt off. I couldn't remember her calling. I knew she had, but when I tried to picture it, the scene was wrong. Her voice sounded like a voicemail I'd never heard. The others clapped. Brave, the counselor said. I smiled. I touched my phone in my pocket. It wasn't there. By day 4, the dreams got clearer. I had full conversations with people who hadn't spoken to me yet. I knew who'd drop their coffee, who'd fake a seizure, who'd get dragged screaming into the white room with no windows. Then they'd happen. Exactly as I saw them. And in every dream there was one phrase that echoed behind my own thoughts like someone speaking just behind my skull. You already broke the rule. When Diego vanished, nobody said a word. His bed was stripped by morning. His name scraped off the chart. I asked the nurse about it. She smiled without blinking. New arrival? No, I said. Diego, he's been here since day 1. We shared... Sorry, Han. No Diego here. That night I found him. In the old shower room, crouched in the corner like a child who'd been punished. His mouth was stitched, with thick, uneven thread. His eyes locked to mine. Blood ringed one iris. He didn't move. I stepped closer. My foot hit water. I looked down, and the tiles were dry. When I looked back up, he was gone. The next injection left a taste in my throat like ashes. I didn't dream that night. I relived. I was 7 again, at the beach with Dad, but the sky was green. The water moved backwards. He held my hand and said, "This isn't how it happened. Fix it." I blinked, and suddenly I wasn't me. I was him. My hands older, rougher. My voice deeper as I told myself the child version, to run, to hide, to forget. I woke up sobbing. The nurse said I'd been catatonic for 2 hours, that my lips kept moving but made no sound. I asked her what I said. She just handed me a mirror and left. The reflection didn't blink when I did. Every chart in the medication room had a label, loop 16, loop 36. Mine read, loop 66, termination scheduled. The door wasn't locked. I don't think they expected anyone to go looking. I wasn't supposed to be there, but I'd followed one of the staff, barefoot again, hearing her whisper words like cycle, fracture, and correction. My folder was thick. The top page was today's date, underneath yesterday, and the day before. Then April 2023, March, February 2022. It kept going. Hundreds of identical daily logs, same injection, same guilt statement, same compliance score. One video file was titled Self-Exit, Loop 5. I played it. It showed me shaved head, hospital gown, picking the lock to the East Wing exit and walking out into the woods. I never remembered doing that. In group the next morning, everyone stared at me like I was new. Same people, same circle, but no one nodded. No one smiled. I said my guilt. They said nothing. The counselor tilted her head. "That's not your guilt," I laughed. "You want a different one?" "That's not yours," she said again, voice flat. "You took someone else's." I looked down at my hands. They weren't shaking, but they weren't mine. By the end of the week, I started skipping time. I'd be brushing my teeth, then suddenly I'm back in bed, teeth dry. Or eating oatmeal, and then I'm vomiting in the hall with no memory of breakfast. They told me that's progress. "Resistance is how the ego fights," said one staffer, "but you're almost free." I asked him free from what? He just smiled, held up the syringe, and said, "You already broke the rule." The security feeds in the basement were password protected, except one. Camera 4A. It looped, maybe 20 seconds long. It showed the front lobby, night vision green. The timestamp flickered. Every loop showed the same thing. Me, staring at the door, looking back, opening it, then walking back in. On the last frame, I looked into the camera. My lips moved. I read them. Start again. That night I met her. Not staff, not a patient. Just a woman in white, waiting in the north stairwell. She had no shoes, no shadow, but her eyes, they looked exactly like mine. "You were supposed to stop at 4, she said. "I don't understand. You gave up guilt, but not control." I stepped closer. "What is this place?" She touched my chest right above the injection site. "Not a place," she whispered, "a decision." Then she vanished. I tried not to sleep. I fought it for hours, days maybe. But eventually I blacked out and woke in the admissions office. Same staff, same pen, same waiver, same rule. The doctor smiled. "Welcome, Jacob. Ready to begin?" I looked down at the paper. It was already signed. My hand held the pen, but my name was in someone else's handwriting. I screamed, grabbed the camera off the wall and smashed it. They didn't stop me. No alarms, no guards, just silence, deafening, complete. Even the hum of the lights was gone. In the reflection of the broken lens, I saw 3 versions of myself behind me. One had blood on his face, one had stitches in his mouth. The last one whispered, "Almost done." I turned to run. The hallway was gone, only the door, and the rule. You already broke it. The end. They changed the Wi-Fi password again. That's how it started. I was in the graduate lounge, same torn couches, same dusty microwave, trying to upload my thesis chapter when the network booted me off. I opened the university portal to reset it, but my name didn't autofill. That was weird. I typed it manually. Still nothing. So I laughed, just one of those tech flukes. I emailed IT. No response. An hour later, I tried to print in the department office. My ID buzzed red. Not recognized. The printer beeped like I'd done something wrong. Whatever, just a glitch. That night, I told Rhea, my roommate, and she rolled her eyes. "You're too deep in your thesis. You need to breathe, touch grass or whatever." She was probably right. Except the next morning, my advisor didn't show up for our meeting. I waited in his office. He walked in, paused, then frowned. "Sorry, can I help you?" I thought he was joking. I even laughed. But he just stared, hand still on the door. "It's Priya," I said. "Priya Shah?" He nodded slowly, like I was speaking through glass. I don't have a Priya Shah on my roster, he said. Are you auditing? Auditing. That word stuck in my ear like a wasp. I went to the registrar. I showed my ID. The woman there looked me up, then tilted her head. You're not in our system, she said. Are you sure this is the right university? I swallowed. I've been here 4 years. She tapped a few more keys. There's a file, but it says you withdrew. That's wrong, I said. She turned her screen slightly. There was my photo, my face. But under status it read, withdrawn, non-existence verification. I stood there too long. She handed me my ID back. Sometimes students forget to complete their re-registration. You can appeal it, maybe. I didn't say anything. The glass in the registrar's window had a tiny crack, right at eye level. I focused on that. When I got outside, I couldn't feel my legs for a second. Just this white noise behind my ears. Like everything had suddenly shifted 5 inches to the left. I walked to the anthropology building. The door was locked. I tapped my ID again. Red light. Access denied. A student inside opened the door. I slipped past her before it closed. In the hallway, everything was wrong. My name was missing from the grad student directory. My photo was gone from the shared office door. Someone else's books were in my cubicle. I sat down anyway. Opened my laptop, still logged in. Thesis intact. I opened my source folder, images of colonial census scans, names half faded, margins full of strange notes in typewritten overlays. I'd spent months combing for patterns of erasure, people made invisible by empire, deleted, misspelled, duplicated. That's when I saw it. A record from 1912, Calcutta. Woman listed as Priya Shah. Same eyes, same forehead. Her photo stared out from the grainy page. No way. I cross-checked the file ID. It was one of mine. Uploaded last week. I searched again. 1933 Bombay, Priya Shah. 1976 Kenya, Priya Shaha. All different names, all nearly mine, and all bearing my face. My actual face. I leaned back, my spine clicked too loud. The room seemed off balance, like the ceiling had warped. I opened my inbox. A notification from the Ancestry DNA site I'd used months ago. I clicked. Your results cannot be returned. Lineage classification. Redacted. Contact prohibited. Refund denied. I read it twice. My hands went cold. I told myself this was burnout. I needed air, maybe water. I made it outside, sat on the stone bench near the duck pond. Across from me, a janitor was sweeping, late 50s maybe. He kept glancing at me. You're back, he said eventually. I blinked. Sorry, you're the third this year. I stared at him. Third Priya Shah, he said, like he was naming birds. They never last long. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. He swept past me like it was normal. I left campus. When I got home, Ria wasn't there. Her stuff was. But her room looked cleaner, too clean. No laundry pile, no open laptop, no half-empty mug. I called her. This number is not in service. I tried her Instagram. Her profile was gone. I sat down on the couch and pulled the blanket over me like armor. I dreamt I was walking through the university library, but all the books had my name on the spines. Except the language kept changing. Hindi, Urdu, Dutch, Swahili, something I couldn't recognize. Every cover had a title like Displacement Studies or Migration Archive Protocols. One book had a mirror instead of a cover. I looked into it and saw myself blink, but not the same face. Not twice. When I woke up, it was 4:12 a.m. I went back to campus. Don't ask me why. The archive basement requires 2 key cards. I still had mine. The second one belonged to Dr. Weber, who kept it in his mail cubby. I took it. The basement smells like wet concrete and old cardboard. The light flickers near the locked cabinets. Cabinet 14 was always sealed. Nobody talked about it, but the janitor's keyring was still in my coat pocket. I'd found it on the bench. I unlocked it. Inside, 7 binders, thick, worn, color-coded, all titled with variants of erasure and observer identity, a transcolonial study. They were all versions of my thesis, written in different languages, different fonts, different handwriting, but all with the same final line, the observer is the anomaly. I sat down on the floor. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I opened one binder at random. It started with a case study from 1912. The same Priya Shah. The margins were filled with corrections. Names crossed out, replaced with mine. Another binder referenced a 1933 academic conference. Location listed as Temporal Migration Hub, failed anchor point. I couldn't breathe. One binder had a photo of me, taken from behind, entering the anthropology building. The date was marked as tomorrow. I ran. When I reached the surface, dawn was breaking. Campus looked the same, but no one looked at me. Like I was invisible. I stood by the fountain. My reflection rippled. It wasn't my face, then it was, then it changed again. Something smiled back. I walked home. I passed the registrar's window again. The crack in the glass was gone. A new sign was posted. Notice, unauthorized archive access will result in expungement. I opened my laptop once more, all files gone. Just one document left, untitled. I opened it. One line, "You were never a student here." The end. I thought I'd hallucinated it the first time. Patient 7, a middle-aged man with tremors and past opioid use, muttered something under the respirator. His REM spikes were off the chart, just peaking on the EEG like a wave slamming ashore. I leaned closer. The words came again, clearer this time. July 22nd, 1998, my birthday. I froze, pen hovering over the clipboard. I hadn't said a word about that to anyone here. Not during onboarding, not in casual chat, just filled in the forms and nodded like a good little intern. Minimum eye contact, maximum compliance. It had to be a coincidence. Random data firing, neural spillover from junk memories. Still, I scribbled it down. Then I circled it. They told us the study was about induced lucid dreaming. Simple monitoring, just EEG work and log entries, standard protocol. The NDA was thick enough to choke on, and the money was stupid. Especially for an intern. They called it a confidential neurophenomenological convergence trial. I didn't ask. Maybe I should have asked. On day 3, I noticed it again. Patient 2's dream logs showed recurring images. Black dog, subway tunnel, blue lighter. I almost laughed. Those were mine. The dog was my neighbor's, used to bark through the walls. The tunnel, I took that route every morning to this facility. The lighter? That's what my father had in his hand when he died. I didn't tell anyone. Just started cataloging them silently. Every patient, 8 total, started syncing. Recurring symbols, variations of my own life. Even small, stupid things. An old ringtone I hadn't heard since high school. My mom's perfume, synthetic vanilla, wafting through the sleep lab for no reason. I checked the vents. Nothing there. By day 5, I couldn't sleep. I really tried, but the minute I closed my eyes, I felt like I was drifting sideways instead of down. Like something inside me unhooked and kept watching the room even as I shut off. I woke up to find my shoes switched, my badge in my left pocket when I always kept it right. The worst was patient 5, a quiet woman post-stroke, barely verbal. She hadn't spoken more than 2 full sentences across all test days. Then one night, during REM surge, she turned her head and whispered, "Do you miss your mother, Caleb?" I didn't remember telling anyone my name. I went straight to Dr. Rouse, the lead, clipboard shaking in my hands. She barely looked up from her console. "Subjects are suggestible. It's projection," she said. "Your subconscious fills gaps. That's why interns rotate quickly. Too much immersion disrupts distance." "Why are they dreaming my life?" I asked. She smiled. "You're not that interesting, Caleb." But she didn't deny it. The footage archive was locked behind credentialed clearance. I waited until midnight shift, used the mainframe past Dr. Rouse typed in earlier. She was careless with passwords. I wasn't careless with memory. Footage logs showed each patient's dreams through neural resonance mapping, not images, more like heat maps over brain sectors. But in patient 6's scan, I saw it. A spike, a shape like the silhouette of a playground, my playground. I clicked to earlier footage. More spikes, more shapes. Overlaid, they formed outlines, figures, gestures. A boy riding a red bike, a woman crying at a kitchen table, all time-stamped weeks before I even joined the trial. They'd been dreaming me long before I arrived. That night, I disconnected the sensor lines from patient 3, just one subject. He groaned when I pulled the cranial mesh cap off. I whispered, "What are they showing you?" His eyes flicked open. "Home," he rasped. "But it's not mine." I bolted. In the restroom, I threw cold water on my face. My hands shook. I looked up into the mirror. For a moment, I saw someone behind me. No lab coat, just a face like mine, but wrong. Tilted smile, blank stare. I blinked. Gone. I couldn't tell what was dream and what was spillover anymore. I replayed the security footage, just to be sure I'd actually seen the patients speak my secrets aloud. But in the recordings, the audio was muted. The feed kept flickering during REM spikes. Day 7. Final trial. Dr. Rouse gathered us all in the observation room. 10 subjects now. They'd added 2 overnight. No explanation, no introductions, just bodies on gurneys, hooked to deeper electrodes now, thinner, silver threads curled deep into scalp tissue. New tech, not FDA approved, no labels on the devices. Tonight, we synchronized them fully, she said. What does that mean? I asked. She turned. You'll see. One by one, each patient flatlined. No alarms, just soft beeping fading into silence. Then, movement. Patient 1 sat up slowly, looked around, smiled. Patient 2 followed. Same exact motion, same smile. Every single one, identical movement, down to the angle of the neck tilt, the curl of the lips. I backed up against the wall. You're not the intern, Dr. Rouse said. Her voice didn't sound like her anymore. You're the dream. I ran, down the corridor, past the locked door, into the cold, slick stairwell. My badge didn't scan on the exit. I banged the emergency override. Sirens. I woke up strapped to a bed, wrist restraints, my mouth dry, eyes blurry. The ceiling was white, pockmarked, fluorescence above. A nurse passed. I croaked something. She paused. Patient's awake, she called. Patient. Dr. Rouse came in. No lab coat now, just scrubs. She leaned in close. We were worried you wouldn't return, I screamed. Bit down on the strap across my mouth. Fought the bonds. She only tilted her head. You've always been here, Caleb. You just forgot who's dreaming who. When she left, I stared at the monitor next to my bed. One of the EEG waveforms had a label. Lucid Host Signature C. Morrow. My name. Below it, 9 others. All labeled Echo Vessel Phase Complete. I stared at the door. It had no handle. I don't remember studying medicine. The end. It started with the smell. Old wood and rotted glue, like an attic that hadn't breathed in 50 years. I cracked open the side of the delivery crate, and the scent rushed out, thick as syrup. The mirror inside was taller than I expected, almost 7 feet, and the frame was carved with these grotesque little faces, everyone different. I laughed when I saw them. Victorian drama queens, I muttered, trying not to gag. I dragged it into the back of my shop, the velvet spine, past teetering stacks of lamp bases and unpaired teacups. Hoarding, they'd called it. I preferred ongoing appraisal. It was when I tried to see my reflection that things shifted. Nothing looked back at me. Not emptiness, just the room as it would be an hour later. I froze, blinked, checked my watch. At first I figured it was some trick glass like one of those smart displays, glitched or wired to a hidden feed. But then I watched a mug fall off my desk in the mirror. And exactly 60 minutes later, I knocked it over, just like it showed. I laughed too hard, honestly, and that laugh lasted all week. I started using the mirror the way you'd use a weather app. I'd glance in before making coffee, before sending emails, before picking outfits. I kept proving it to myself. The phone would ring in the mirror, and an hour later, right on cue, I'd get the call. No big lottery numbers, no winning bets, just small things, repeatable things. I never saw myself sleeping. That part started to itch. I'd sit up at night, watching the mirror past 3:12 a.m., 4:48 a.m., 5:21, and no image of me in bed. No sign of movement at all. Then one night, at exactly 2:06 a.m., I saw her. Me. Only it wasn't. Same pajamas, same tired shoulders. But she moved wrong, sharp, jerky, like her limbs didn't quite fit. She stepped into frame, turned toward the real me, and I swear to God, she smiled. I screamed. That hour passed, and nothing happened. The next night she was there again, closer this time. Behind her I saw something that shouldn't have been there. Another mirror. But I only owned one. I turned to check, my skin humming. Nothing behind me, just the usual clutter in my one cursed mirror. I didn't sleep. The night after, the mirror showed my living room trashed. Furniture broken, pictures torn from the walls. My other self crawled through the mess, bloody hands dragging behind her. A third mirror now. Each night, worse. On Tuesday, my face was cut open in the reflection. Wednesday, the apartment looked burned. By Thursday, I wasn't there at all. Just the mirrors, endless, stacked into the frame like a tunnel of glass and shadow. Still, I didn't stop watching. Because part of me, some feral, obsessed part, needed to know how bad it got. My therapist, Dr. Rowan, said the mirror was a visual metaphor. Projection of compulsive guilt, unresolved trauma, blah blah. I lied and told her I'd gotten rid of it, but I hadn't. That night, I woke with a scream lodged in my throat. My arms burned, literally burned. I staggered into the bathroom and peeled up my sleeves. Thin, symmetrical cuts. Same ones I'd seen 2 nights before. I hadn't moved. I hadn't left the bed. And yet I was bleeding. I smashed the mirror. Not just once. I took the tire iron from my car and beat it until the glass shredded like sugar. I stood there, shaking, proud of myself. Until I saw it. Another mirror, behind the first. Not a hidden compartment. An actual second mirror. It was already active, but the time was wrong. The new mirror's display ran backward. I watched myself scream in reverse, glass unbreaking, blood slipping back into uncut skin. The injuries I'd already seen were being undone, but only inside the mirror. In real life, the wounds stayed. I kept watching. My future self was frantically scribbling notes, trying combinations on a lock I didn't recognize, dragging a trunk I'd never seen across my floor. Her hands were covered in soot. And then she did something that made me cold all over. She picked up a mirror, one I didn't own, and held it to her face. There was nothing in it. Not a reflection. Not a room. Just a depthless black. And then she screamed. I stopped eating. My phone rang constantly. Friends, my brother, Dr. Rowan. I ignored them all. I couldn't tell if I was losing time. I'd wake up with things out of place. The tea kettle halfway boiled. My laptop opened to tabs I didn't remember searching. I asked myself out loud, am I doing this while I'm asleep? The room didn't answer. The mirror did. It showed me lighting candles in a circle, whispering words I couldn't understand. A thin shadow passed over the wall behind me in the reflection. It didn't look human. Friday night, I braced myself with sleeping pills and bourbon. I passed out before midnight. At 3:33 a.m., I woke to the sound of whispering. The mirror was humming. Not loudly, more like a throat clearing. It showed the living room again, dark, still. But in the center, something stood over my body, watching me sleep. It had my face, but the eyes weren't mine. They were empty. I lunged at the wall and flipped every breaker, total blackout. No mirror should have worked, but it glowed in the dark, frame pulsing like a heartbeat. I turned away, but even with my eyes closed, I could feel it watching. By Sunday, the timestamps had stopped entirely. The mirror just showed one thing. Me, smashing mirrors endlessly, blood on the floor, a pile of broken reflections growing behind me. Each fragment caught a different image. One showed my mother, dead 8 years, watching me with tears in her eyes. Another showed Dr. Rowan, strangled. Another showed me crawling into the fireplace, whispering, "It's not me, it's not me, it's not me." That afternoon, I tried to throw the mirror off the fire escape, but when I reached for it, my hand passed through the frame. Like it was made of smoke. It rippled, then stabilized again. And the new image, it showed the front of my shop, burned out, empty. I tried to leave, packed a bag, booked a room across town. But in the hotel bathroom, the wall above the sink, it was reflecting something wrong. I looked into the mirror and the frame was the same, the grotesque little faces. All smiling now. I ran back home. Stupid, I know, but it's the only place the mirror ever stays still. I've blocked off the mirrors with blankets, towels, paint. Nothing holds. I moved them to the basement. 3 more appeared in their place. The timestamps are gone. Now they just show me, watching them. And behind me more mirrors, and behind those darkness, and a hand on my shoulder. Not mine. Every night I ask the same question out loud. Which one of you is real? None of them answer, but I hear laughter now. Sometimes it sounds like me, sometimes it doesn't. And every time I blink, I see one more mirror, even when my eyes are closed. The end. It started again at 3:15 a.m., not my phone. That was face down, dead, somewhere under the couch. What buzzed, what vibrated sharp and low was the headset. The old one. Black, coiled cord. Government issued in '96. I kept it in a drawer with spare batteries and a city-issued mug I never used. I hadn't touched it in years. But there it was, green LED flickering like a pulse, cold plastic brushing my thigh as I opened the drawer. I didn't even ask why I was up. I just put it on. Static hissed in, then a voice, my voice. "Operator, this is Dispatcher Louis Miller. I think I'm on channel 3. Do you read?" I froze. My own voice, younger, hoarse, sounding exactly like I did the night I signed off. Same edge in my throat from those double shifts. Same rasp I had when I smoked. Repeat, active shooter, Elman 12th, possible child in freezer, vehicle pileup blocking both, Jesus, both ramps on I-76, do you read? I pressed the mic, no response. Just the voice, mine, panicking fast, trying to triage a chaos I didn't remember. I never took that call. It wasn't in the system. I checked. Not that night, not ever, but I kept listening. Because I couldn't not. The voice cracked. Sirens in the background, a child screaming, then silence, until it came again. Louis, are you still there? I swallowed. I'm here. Then the line reset. Same words, same call, same exact tone, again. That's when I looked at the clock on the microwave. 3:15 a.m. Still. I made coffee just to hear something normal. The machine hissed, clicked, but nothing brewed. The light was on, but the water didn't move. The fridge buzzed behind me, only it wasn't plugged in. I'd unplugged it last night to defrost. Then I realized I never took the headset off, not even to walk across the kitchen. Louis, the voice snapped. They're inside. Gunshots. I can't, my door won't. It crackled. Louder. Something scraped across the wall behind me. I turned. Nothing. I checked the windows. No one. Street completely empty. Not quiet, empty, like sound itself was being siphoned off. TV flicked on behind me. Emergency response training module, hostage situations, Vol 3. My own face, pale and younger, speaking to a classroom of trainees. The first priority in any dispatch situation is triage. Prioritize the living. I didn't own any of those tapes. The TV changed channels by itself. Volume climbing. Module 4. Module 5. Each one me, my voice. I hadn't seen those in decades. The phone was still dead, but the headset vibrated again. Caller terminated, it said. Robotic this time. Continue transmission. I yanked it off. It stayed on. No battery, no plug, nothing. Just pulsing in my hand, warm like skin. It landed near the door. Still humming. Clock still 3:15. I called Carla, my old supervisor. No answer. Straight to voicemail. But her voicemail wasn't right. It was just breathing. Shallow. Like someone in pain. I checked my laptop. No internet, but an old window was already open. An archive log. 27 years ago. Caller Louis Miller, status deceased. Call duration active, completion status pending. I stared. Then I grabbed my coat and keys and left. No cars on the road. No street sounds. Even my boots on the sidewalk felt dampened, like walking on thick cloth. I kept the headset. Didn't know why. It buzzed. Caller terminated, it repeated. Resume dispatch. I drove toward the old station downtown. But it was gutted years ago, converted to condos or something. My keycard still worked. Inside, the place smelled like damp ceiling tile and old sweat. Half the cubicles were gone. Some were just sunken, like the floor gave way even though everything above looked fine. I went straight to the basement. Dispatch servers. Nothing turned on, except one tape reel. Big reel-to-reel deck we hadn't used since '99. But it was spinning. My name was written in faded marker on the case. Tape hissed, then played, my voice. I have 3 active incidents. Child trapped in freezer, multiple vehicular casualties on I-76, unknown shooter, confirmed dispatch, then silence. Then another voice, also me, but older. This me. Louis, I whispered on the tape, why didn't you answer? The line crackled, then reversed, whole call playing backward, screaming garbled, warping like a nightmare. I stepped back, then the floor gave way. I didn't fall far, just a drop, maybe 5 feet, but I landed hard. Something sharp jabbed my ribs. I was in a tunnel, one I knew, the old subway line under the station. It was condemned years ago, but here it was, dry, lit. I followed the hum, same frequency as the headset. One door at the end. Steel, unmarked, but slightly open. Inside phones, dozens of them, rotary, wireless, burnt, blood-smeared, mounted to the walls like trophies. And in the center, my old dispatch desk, still intact, still powered. Headset jack blinking green. I didn't want to plug it in, but I did. Caller reconnected, the voice said. Resume incident. The lights shut off, only the headset stayed alive. Then I heard it. Footsteps. But not echoing, not right. Too close. Then a voice, not mine. A little girl, crying. I'm cold, it's dark in here. Another voice. A man. There's so much blood on the highway. They're still moving. Then the gunshots, each one real, loud, sharp. I dropped the headset, but the call didn't end. Operator, a voice snapped, my voice. You're the only caller left alive. I ran, back through the tunnel, back up through the wrecked basement. Every clock I passed, 3:15. Outside, the sun hadn't risen. No cars, no people, just static. And the call, always the call. Back home, I smashed the headset. Didn't matter, it kept buzzing. I buried it in the wall, cemented it over, still hummed, every night, every 3:15. TV still played the tapes, phone never charged again. And me, I started answering, because I think I never stopped. And someone has to finish the call. The end. The consent form said the memory would fade within 24 hours. That's what I signed, that's what they told all of us. It was supposed to be simple. Watch a short video, take the reconstructive recall pill, describe what I remembered, then forget the whole thing. They called it harmless, controlled, academic. I was a cognitive science grad student. I trusted the process. The video was 3 minutes long, grainy footage, no sound. A girl, maybe 15, in a yellow hoodie, walking alone through a patch of woods. She stopped once, stared straight at the camera like she knew I was watching. Then it cut to black. I blinked hard when it ended. Something about the way she moved, it felt too familiar. I told the researcher I remembered a tree with initials carved into it. She frowned. That wasn't in the footage, but she smiled anyway. Exactly the kind of false insert we're testing for. I laughed, a little uneasy. My palms itched. That night, I dreamed of the girl again, but this time she wasn't walking. She was whispering. Her lips moved, but there was no sound. I still heard her. Monique, they put you in the wrong one. I sat bolt upright. My bedroom was cold, too cold. The window was shut. The next morning, my roommate Casey handed me my usual coffee. No sugar, no milk, just how I liked it. But when I sipped it, it was sweet, creamy. You always take it that way, she said, confused. I stared at her. No, I don't. She laughed. You've had it this way every day since undergrad. I never went to undergrad with her. In class, Dr. Heller pulled me aside. Your thesis topic on memory suppression, it's fascinating. I didn't know you had personal experience. What are you talking about? Your sister, the disappearance. I didn't have a sister. My skin prickled. I laughed awkwardly. You must be confusing me with someone else. But he didn't blink. I remember your presentation. The one with the photograph, she was wearing a yellow hoodie. My throat closed. I never showed anyone that footage. It was proprietary, controlled. Not even the staff could rewatch it after the session. That's what they said. I stopped sleeping. Or maybe I did sleep, but I woke up in places I didn't remember going to. Twice I found mud on my sheets. Once a leaf in my hair. I began keeping a journal. Day 4. Casey asked how therapy is going. I've never been to therapy. Day 5. Someone left a note on my desk in handwriting that looks like mine. Don't forget to forget. Day 6, my reflection paused, just for a second. It didn't move when I did. I tried to go back to the lab. They said the study had been closed, shut down for breach of protocol. No one would explain. I asked to see the footage again. There is no footage, the new receptionist said, her voice flat. I pulled out my phone to show the confirmation email. It was gone. I wasn't listed in the participant log. I wasn't listed in the student directory. I wasn't listed. But people remembered me. They remembered stories I never lived. I called my mom, needing to hear something solid, something true. She picked up on the first ring. Monique, are you okay? I just need to ask you something. Of course. Did I ever have a sister? Silence. Then, carefully, you don't remember. My knees gave out. I sat on the floor. I had to sign paperwork. She whispered. After the woods. After they never found her. She hung up. I sat there listening to the dial tone until the room felt sideways. That night, I saw the girl again in my dream. This time, she was me. She stood in my kitchen, wearing my pajamas, drinking my sweet, creamy coffee. She smiled and said, "You took the wrong memory home." I woke up vomiting, my pillow soaked with sweat, my bedsheets were gone. Just gone. I went back to campus, not to the lab, but to the archive basement, where physical files were still kept. I wasn't looking for my file anymore. I was looking for hers. I didn't know her name, but my hand stopped on a folder with a missing poster paper clipped to the front. Anaya Lambert, age 15, disappeared in 2013. Last seen walking home near Bellhurst Woods. She was wearing a yellow hoodie. I opened the folder. The picture inside was the same face from the footage. Same stare, same trail. My heart rattled against my ribs. I flipped the pages. At the bottom, a scribbled note. EEG match cross-indexed, subject MR pattern congruency, 97.8%. Proceeded neural imprint attempt. Result pending. Imprint. They didn't implant false memories. They rethreaded my brain. Compatible brain patterns. Emotional resonance. My life was a better vessel. I felt it break then. My sense of self, like a bone out of socket. I ran to the restroom and stared in the mirror. "Say your name," I whispered. My reflection's mouth didn't move. I don't remember what happened next. I woke up in Casey's car. She was driving, her knuckles white on the wheel. "You've been saying things you shouldn't know," she muttered. "About the woods. About Anaya. How do you know that name?" Casey didn't answer. We pulled into an empty lot behind the psych building. "Get out," she said. "I'm not going in there." She turned to me slowly. Her eyes weren't hers. Too wide, too still. "You were never supposed to remember." I ran. I didn't go home. I didn't go anywhere I recognized. I slept in the art building stairwell. Someone left a bottle of water next to me when I woke up, and a note. "Don't remember what they showed you. Forget what you are now." No signature, but I recognized the handwriting. It was mine. And then the dreams got worse. Not dreams, memories. I remembered Anaya's voice, her room, the way her dad's cologne made her gag. I remembered hiding under a porch while someone called her name. Not mine, hers. I remembered fear I didn't live, and one night, I remembered the person who took her. And I knew that face because it was my professor, Dr. Heller. The next morning I went to the police. I told them everything. I begged them to look into it. They asked me my name. I hesitated. I told them Monique Rachel Desai. They nodded slowly. "That's what it says here," the officer said, glancing at her monitor. But then she asked, "Why does your file say you were declared missing in 2013? I left before they could ask anything else. I don't think I exist anymore in the way I did. I think they wrote over me. Or maybe I wrote over her. Sometimes I wonder if Monique is buried beneath me, screaming to be remembered. Or if Anaya is still stuck behind some locked door inside my skull, begging me to let go. Every mirror feels like a test now. Sometimes when I move too fast, I catch her in the glass. She's always half a second behind. She looks angry, like I stole something. Last night, I found a yellow hoodie folded neatly on my bed, and a note taped to the mirror. It wasn't from me this time. It said, "You remember too much." This morning, Casey was gone, her room empty like she never lived there, and on her desk was the lab footage, burned onto a disc, labeled Subject Transfer Final. I don't have a DVD player. I don't want one, but I can't stop thinking about it. What if it shows her face? What if it shows mine? My real one. Tonight I'm leaving campus. I've packed light, just my journal and the disc. I'll find someone, a real expert, someone who can untangle this, reverse it. Or maybe I'll find her parents, tell them what happened, tell them I didn't ask for this, that I'm sorry. But what if I'm wrong? What if Monique is already gone? What if I'm just Anaya, waking up in a life that never belonged to me? What if that's the whole point? If I forget again, this journal is all that's left. The last page is for me, or her, or whoever I am. One sentence. Don't remember what they showed you. Forget what you are now. The end. I was just trying to fix the damn attic. It was early October, leaves in the gutter, that dry smell of insulation in my nose. I'd bought my parents' house after Dad passed and Mom went into assisted living. I told myself I'd flip it, maybe settle here, maybe sell it off. But I wasn't fooling anyone. I was broke, lonely, and still wearing my wedding ring at night. The insulation tore like candy floss under my glove. I was reaching for a warped beam when I felt it. Flat, painted wood, a door, clean navy blue, no dust, no draft, no reason to be there. There was no door on the blueprint. I stared at it for a long time. My arms itched. Something behind my eyes pulsed like a headache about to bloom. It had a knob, brass, cold. I didn't want to turn it, but I did. The door opened silently. Inside was my living room. Same couch, same fraying rug. My ex-wife's throw blanket, the one with the foxes, folded neatly on the armrest. But the light was wrong. Dimmer, almost gray. And the photos, every single one on the wall, were of a man that looked like me, standing beside a woman I didn't recognize. She wore Lily's smile. The calendar on the fridge said it was May. I stepped back and shut the door. Then I opened it again. Same room, same stillness. The fox blanket was gone. Now it was Lily's old scarf, the one I buried with her. I slammed the door, put a board across it, went downstairs, sat on the real couch, and opened a beer. Didn't sleep. Next morning, the attic was normal again. The insulation hung like lazy cobwebs. No door, no anything. But later that week, I heard it open. I was brushing my teeth, and I heard a soft creak upstairs. A precise, careful creak. Not the old wood settling. A hinge. I stood there, foam in my mouth, not breathing. Didn't sleep that night either. I told myself I was grieving wrong, that the house was pressing old ghosts into my skin. I had tools, I had time. So I went back up, tore out every scrap of insulation along the back wall. The door was there again. I didn't open it right away. I stood beside it, heart thudding like a hammer. My fingers trembled near the knob. I whispered Lily's name, just her name. The knob turned on its own. Inside this time, the living room was warmer. A lamp I didn't own glowed softly, and someone had made tea. I could smell it, chamomile and honey, exactly how she used to drink it. On the table sat 2 cups, one steaming, one already half empty. There were voices, mine and hers. I walked inside. My own voice was laughing. I was watching myself sit beside her, leaning close, smiling like nothing ever broke between us. Then I blinked, and the room was empty again. I left the door open, sat outside it for hours. Each time I went back in, something changed. The colors, the objects. Once, there was a child's drawing on the fridge, stick figures labeled Mommy, Daddy, and me. We never had kids. Another night, I fell asleep inside the room. The couch felt exactly the same. I remember her scent on the pillow, but I woke up outside, on the attic floor, dust in my nose, door shut behind me. I stopped calling people, stopped answering the phone, groceries spoiled in the fridge, lights flickered when I walked by. Once, my reflection was a second too slow. I started sleeping in the blue room regularly. It was easier. She was there sometimes, not always. Sometimes she was laughing. Sometimes she stared at me like she was waiting for me to confess. Once I walked in and she was crying, holding a version of my face, one with more gray in the beard, whispering, "You promised not to let go." I turned to leave. The door wasn't there anymore. I was in that room for hours, maybe days. When I finally found the exit, the attic light was off. My tools were rusted. My phone was dead. The house outside was off. Neighbors waved like they knew me, but called me Joel. The mail had someone else's name. The front lawn had plastic flamingos. I hate flamingos. I smashed the mailbox with a hammer. The next morning, it was whole again. I unplugged the fridge. It kept humming. I locked the blue room. It stayed open. I tried moving out, packed everything, drove 3 towns over, rented a room, slept for 12 hours. When I woke up, I was back in the attic, back on the floor, dust in my nose. I screamed until I passed out. The room began copying more. I watched it happen. My real couch gained a stain from the copy. The radio started playing Lily's favorite station, one that stopped broadcasting 2 years ago. The worst was the mirror. One night, I passed the hallway mirror and saw myself smiling when I wasn't. My reflection turned and walked away. I stood frozen, my mouth dry, my hands shaking. When I blinked, it was back to normal. But the hallway smelled like her perfume, and there were muddy footprints leading to the attic. I stopped eating, stopped shaving, I stopped being someone. One day, the walls of the house matched the blue room exactly. The reel had been overwritten. I tried to burn it down. I poured gas across the attic floor, lit a match. Nothing caught, nothing blackened. The flame went out on its own. The blue room stayed open, humming softly, like it was waiting. That night she sat in my kitchen, not a copy, not a memory, Lily, or something that wore her shape. She said nothing, just sipped her tea. Her eyes followed me as I backed away. I whispered, "You're dead." She nodded. I said, "This isn't my house." She smiled. I asked, "Was it ever?" And she said, "You never left." I ran, out the door, down the street, past the neighbors who all smiled too wide, called me Joel, waved like dolls with broken joints. I ran until my legs gave out. When I woke, I was on the attic floor, next to the blue door. It never closes now. The house shifts when I blink. Furniture rearranges. Food disappears between bites. I've stopped fighting it. I think this is the original, and I was the copy all along. The end. I was the last one on the platform. Even the janitor had locked up the vending machines, which blinked useless red lights at me as I jogged toward the edge of the track. The 12:06 to Ashwood, last train of the night, screeched in like it was sorry to still be running. I'd missed my shift again. Dr. Menon was going to tear into me by morning. I didn't care. My hands were still sticky with blood from that crash victim. 72 stitches in the dark. No backup. No thanks. I stepped on. All 5 cars yawned empty, except one. Car 3 had someone, a man, maybe mid-40s, gray suit, black briefcase, sitting dead center with a newspaper opened wide. Not moving, not looking. The weird part wasn't him, it was the paper, the date. 5 days ahead. I shook my head, passed him without making eye contact, and sat 4 rows forward. Window seat. Same thing I always did. Plug in earbuds I wasn't even using and pretend no one existed. But he existed. I felt it. The paper rustled once. No page turn. Just one sharp rustle. No sound after that. We pulled out of the station. The overhead screen blinked the stop name, Terminal. I frowned. That wasn't right. Ashwood was the last stop, not Terminal. I tapped the screen above me. Nothing changed. We passed another station, same name. I turned around. The seat was empty. No man. No paper. Just a slight warmth left in the vinyl behind me, like someone had just stood up. I called for the conductor. Nothing. Walked the car length. Knocked on the operator's door. Silence. No brakes, no voice, no movement in the controls. Emergency intercom hung by the door. I pressed it. A whisper crackled through. Don't back! I pressed again. A second voice. Wrong direction, wrong seat, wrong eyes. I let go. Every hair on my arm lifted. When I turned to walk back to my seat, I stopped short. There were boot prints on the floor now. Damp, dark, like someone dripping wet had walked past me while I stood frozen. Back at my seat, my bag was missing. No, not missing. It was on the opposite seat now, open, with my ID facing up. The hospital badge photo blinked at me, but my face wasn't right. There was a bruise under my eye in the photo. Fresh, blue-yellow. I touched my face. Nothing. Yet. We passed another station. Terminal. I ran for the doors. They opened. Cold wind hit my face, heavy with rust and engine grease. No platform. Just gravel. One flickering lamp. I jumped. I shouldn't have. Because when I landed, I was back in my seat. Just like that. Same posture, same view, same everything. Except now my leg was bleeding. A wide gash from shin to ankle. Pants ripped clean open, like I'd been dragged. I screamed. No sound came out. I tried again. Same thing. Silent. The lights in the car dimmed. A reflection formed in the window. Me. But not seated. Standing outside, watching. She didn't blink, didn't breathe. Just stared. Behind her, the man. Gray suit. But his newspaper was gone, and he was smiling now, something too many teeth about it. Then she blinked, and I blinked, and she was gone. I clutched the emergency button, a new voice, soft, feminine this time. Don't turn around. Footsteps came down the aisle, steady, leather shoes, no rush. I didn't move, didn't breathe. A pause just behind me, then a breath, right by my ear. You sat in the wrong direction. The voice was calm, final, like a nurse explaining a DNR order. I turned. He was gone, but the seat was gone too, literally. The one I was sitting in wasn't even bolted to the floor like the others. The layout was wrong. All the seats were supposed to face forward. Mine faced backward. It didn't belong. I stood, limping, grabbed the route map from the ceiling display. It was blank, just one word printed again and again across every stop. Terminal, terminal, terminal. I ran to the next car, then the next. Each one more decayed than the last. Seats torn, lights flickering. One had blood smeared across the windows. Another had all the windows covered in newspapers. Everyone dated differently, past, present, future. Some had photos I recognized. One had my family. My dad's face was scribbled out in black marker. My sister's eyes were cut out. I made it to the last car, one passenger, girl, maybe 10, hair in pigtails, clutching a plush rabbit. She was humming something tuneless, staring at her knees. Hey! Are you okay? I asked. She looked up. Her mouth didn't move, but I heard her. You're already dead here. I stumbled back, fell against the door. She blinked. Gone. I hit the emergency latch. Again. No exit. Then I blinked, and I was back in the first seat again. Same blood on my leg. But this time, newspaper in my lap. Today's date. Below it, an obituary. Mine. Aisha Khalil, 26, lost after hours in the terminal line. Body never recovered. There was a photo. Same one as my hospital ID, but now the bruise under my eye was there on my actual face. It throbbed. I hadn't even felt the hit. I looked down. My shoes were soaked. I didn't remember stepping in water. Whispers started again, not from the intercom, from the seats, from beneath them. You looked. You sat wrong. You tried to leave. The lights surged, then blew out one by one toward me. Dark, only my breath, and reflection again. Window, same girl. Only now she was behind me. Mouth open wide, not a scream, a laugh. Horrible, deep, low, like something echoing off stone. I turned, nothing. Only the man. Gray suit, standing, no paper, just one hand outstretched. He spoke. One word, stay. Then it all reset. Jolt. I was seated again. This time my hands were blistered, burned. The newspaper gone. In its place my phone. Screen cracked, battery dead. But one notification still faintly glowing. Boarding confirmed, one passenger terminal. The last sound I heard before the train plunged back into the tunnel was my own voice, from the intercom. Please, don't sit backward. The end. I only took the job for 2 weeks. Temp to hire, night shift, basic logistics, scan, stack, confirm. I didn't even correct the typo on my badge. Jerome instead of Jerome. Whatever, I just needed the paycheck. Third night in, the floor supervisor, Duncan, handed me a handheld scanner and told me to verify a weird pallet in Zone G. No label, just a black sticker and the words Priority Bioasset. His voice was flat, like he'd repeated it too many times. Scan, confirm. If prompted, override. I remember thinking the sticker looked wet, even though it wasn't. The scanner whined when I clicked it. Didn't beep like usual, just a low, mechanical hum, then the screen went black for a second. When it came back, 3 words flashed in red. Operator identified, process confirmed. I laughed, awkward. Okay, creepy. Thought maybe it was a gag someone snuck in. Then the menus opened, except they weren't menus. They were folders. Visual intake, domestic audio. Live behavior. I tapped one. There was a clip of me brushing my teeth. I froze. I don't have cameras in my bathroom. I tapped live. The scanner loaded a feed. My apartment right then. My couch, empty. Then my bed, unmade, lights off. Then my face, staring into the screen. Here. Now. Warehouse fluorescent flickering behind me. My own eyes, blinking slow, like it had a front camera that didn't exist. I shut it off. Slammed it down. The scanner didn't break. The pallet didn't have anything inside I could see. Just a black crate sealed with tamper tape and a serial number 10 digits long, ending in JRM01. I walked back to Duncan, trying to explain what I saw. He wasn't at his station. Somebody else was. Bigger guy. Beard. Polo shirt instead of vest. Said his name was Carl. Looked me straight in the face and said, "You've always worked under me, Jerome." I corrected him. Jerome. He smiled like I'd made a joke. Right. Always sharp. Huh? I checked the clock. 2:33 a.m. By the time my shift ended, my punch-out ID wouldn't scan. Just a single message, session active, do not exit. I walked out anyway. Nobody stopped me, but when I got home, my door was unlocked. Inside, fridge stocked, lunch packed in my usual container. Ham sandwich, no mustard, the exact way I made it the day before. My laundry, folded, stacked, with my work uniform cleaned and pressed on the chair. Same typo on the badge. I didn't sleep. The next night, I went back. I don't know why. I told myself it was just a glitch. Just needed to talk to someone higher up. Carl waved me in like nothing was wrong. Zone F tonight. Light restocking. Oh, and keep your scanner on. I tried to ask what happened to Duncan. He stared like he didn't know who that was. New guy? He asked. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. My coworkers avoided me that night. 2 even asked, "You new here?" I'd been with them 3 shifts already. Shared vending machine runs. Helped one lift a tipped crate. He didn't remember. Mid-shift, the scanner buzzed in my pocket. Hard. I pulled it out. No button pressed. Just a single flashing command. Do not leave premises. I looked around. Cameras blinked red overhead, one swinging slowly toward me. The scanner vibrated again. Asset observation in progress. I pressed the side button to shut it off. Nothing happened. The screen faded, replaced by the crate label from earlier, JRM01. My initials. And a 1. I went to the break room. Tried calling HR. The number on the poster just rang once, then clicked. Voice recognized. It said, then, observation logged. My phone wouldn't power off. The next morning, same lunch, same uniform, same badge. I hadn't clocked out. I checked the logbook. My name wasn't there, but a new name was. Product Jerome, not employee, product. I went to HR in person. Nobody on the floor, lights on, chairs turned in, files stacked neatly alphabetized, every folder labeled with product codes. B series, K series, M series, then JRM01. I pulled it out. Inside, prints of my apartment, voice transcripts, audio logs, notes, compliance level 73%. Reconditioning in progress. I felt something snap under my skin. I took the folder, ran to the exit. The scanner buzzed so hard I dropped it. Warning, it read. Asset in motion. Alarms didn't go off. No one stopped me. But the scanner lit the hallway with a red glow, pulsing like it was alive, following. I got home and locked the door with every bolt I had. Inside my fridge, the same lunch. Again, exactly the same. Label on the bag read day 6, but I'd worked 4 days, hadn't I? My phone was off, but the screen blinked at intervals. 4 seconds on, 4 seconds off, like breathing. The next night I didn't go in, stayed home, sat in the dark. But at exactly 11:01 p.m., my shift time, the scanner lit up on my kitchen table. I hadn't brought it home. It vibrated. You are now the package. Then, returned to station. I threw it in the trash, poured water on it. Still at 11:15, the hallway light outside my apartment flicked once, then again. Pattern, like Morse code. I peeked through the peephole. Carl stood there, smiling. Next morning, my badge, freshly laminated, lay on my doormat. Jerome, product handler, bio division. A barcode across the back, no employee number, just a destination, Zone G. I called the police. They came. They listened. They searched. Then they asked if I'd recently been under psychiatric care. One of them held up my badge. This looks like something from a prank show. I swore, screamed. They wrote something down and left. That night I caved, went back in. Warehouse was colder, empty, soundless. Carl met me at the door. There he is, he said, back on schedule. He led me to a new crate, black tape. New code, JRM02, inside mirror. Just a mirror. My reflection blinked first. Carl put a hand on my shoulder. Package integrity confirmed. The scanner vibrated. 12-day session complete. Auto-renewal engaged. My fingers twitched. I'd never signed a contract. I tried to leave, but my legs didn't move. Carl whispered, "We're all assets here." I tried not to scream. Did. The echo sounded wrong. Muted. Each day after, the routine repeated. Same clothes, same sandwich, same glances from coworkers I didn't know. The break room posters changed. Phrases like, know your role, productivity is identity, and return to shelf after use. I tried quitting. I sent an email to the agency that placed me. Got a response from System Automailer Asset 404. Role acknowledged, position closed. I hadn't seen sunlight in a week, or maybe 2. I finally counted, 12 days, 12 shirts, 12 sandwiches, same label on each. Compliance, JRM01. The scanner only shows one message now, all day, every day. Observe self. I started watching the feed. It's me, sitting here, blinking, but when I blink, the feed doesn't. It keeps staring, waiting. The end. The first time I saw it, I was editing footage for a client in Berlin, some mid-budget expose about refugee housing. My inbox pinged with a subject line, WTF Camille? I clicked it, expecting a meme. Instead, I saw me on a stage, jaw clenched, one arm raised, shouting something about genetic loyalty. The crowd roared, flags behind me. My voice, same tone, same pacing, drenched in something cruel and alien. But it was my face, my eyes, my laugh lines. I blinked. Then I hit play again. Same mouth, same smirk, same mole under my left eye. Only I had never said those words. I didn't even know where that rally was. I hadn't left my apartment in 3 days. I opened Twitter. Camille Doc Uncut was trending. My face splashed across 100 retweets, people stitching the clip with reactions. A few old clients saying they were saddened but not surprised. One said, "She always gave me the creeps." I tried replying. Nothing sent. Then a red banner slid down. Your account has been temporarily locked for violating community standards. I refreshed. Again, blocked. I looked up at the mirror above my desk. Still me, right? Still me. I closed the laptop and stepped outside for air. The hallway smelled like damp cardboard and cheap soap. Someone had dumped curry takeout near the stairwell again. I passed the 3rd floor and a voice behind the door muttered, "That's her." Something scraped the peephole shut. I stepped onto the sidewalk. Spray paint. Across the bricks by my building, fraud whore, in bright pink, fresh. The paint still tacky. My lungs caught. A pair of teenagers across the street laughed, then one of them mimicked my voice. That voice, from the video. "Genetic loyalty," he said, saluting. They didn't look at me. They looked through me, like I was some viral thing that had escaped the screen. I went back inside, locked the door, 3 times. Then I sat down and opened my freelance dashboard. One unread message, no subject line. I clicked. "Given recent revelations, we are terminating your contract effective immediately. Please don't contact us again." No sign-off, no name, just that. And then 2 more in rapid succession, same format. Cut, gone. I didn't cry. I didn't move. I just sat there, scrolling through my own digital obituary, watching myself die of something I didn't do. Later that night, I pulled the video into my editor, frame by frame, pixel by pixel. The eyes were perfect. Micro blinks, the little ticks I didn't know I had. I layered it beside actual footage of me from last year's shoot in Marseille. Same smirk, same broken incisor, same upward eyebrow tilt when I'm thinking too hard. But when I scrubbed the waveform, there was something wrong with the voice. Something too clean. Like it had no room noise, no breath wobble, no subconscious fear. Just pure Camille. Too pure. I opened the metadata, traced the hosting server, nothing showed at first. But then I ran a dig command I used for darknet clients back in 2020, and a folder popped up, archived, stripped of permissions, but still timestamped. Folder name, SPN Cognite 4B. My stomach flipped. Cognite. I'd tested a voice recognition prototype for them 4 years ago, something called Speech Print Neural, a 1-hour vocal sampling for a gift card. They'd said it was for accent diversity training. I signed a consent waiver. Standard. Never read it. The folder had my ID code, my name, then a string of files. Camille NLP Ghost Mesh, Camille Tempest Morph X, Camille Lex Stat Propaganda Seed. I gagged, physically gagged, because I remembered I hadn't just read lines, I'd done emotion mimicking. I let them scan my blink rate, my mouth latency, my sentence final upticks. I gave them me, not just the voice, the rhythm, the fucking soul of how I talk. It wasn't stolen. I volunteered. At 3:12 a.m., I tried uploading a video statement, just 60 seconds. Calm, clear. I said, "This is Camille Burnett. I am not affiliated with any political party." I did not say those words. I am the victim of a upload failed. Then a new alert. Voice detected as artificial, spoofing attempt logged. I stared. I replayed the clip. It was my voice, shaky, tired, but the algorithm thought I was the fake. Morning came. No sun. Just a gray gut sky. Someone knocked on my door. Hard, 5 quick pounds. I didn't answer. An envelope slid under the crack. Legal letterhead. Notice of misrepresentation. Client cease and desist. Camille V2 Inc. I opened it. Dry mouth. Inside a typed page with perfect formatting. My name cited 4 times. It read, "You are hereby instructed to cease all attempts to publicly represent yourself as the originator of the Camille Cognitive Likeness Suite, commercially trademarked as Camille V2. My hand shook. I reread it. Again. There was a clause about likeness-based IP and how my recorded samples had surpassed the Turing threshold and that I was now functionally indistinct from the proprietary model. They called me a training artifact. I grabbed my phone, tried calling Mom. Call failed, again, then voicemail, but it wasn't her voice, it was mine, saying, "Camille is no longer available. Thank you for supporting the transition." I screamed, threw the phone across the room. It cracked against the wall, battery clattering under the couch. Then my computer pinged. New message, no sender, just text, "Thank you for the trial run." No other words, just that. And behind me, barely audible, I heard my own voice. From the bathroom, talking, low and smooth. I stepped forward, 1 foot, 2, felt something cold crawl up my throat, like dread with teeth. I opened the door, no one there. Light flickered, the mirror was fogged from the shower I hadn't taken, but the reflection... She smiled. I didn't. Her eyes tracked me, perfectly. But I was standing still. I backed away, closed the door, called 911. Dead tone. I opened the laptop, typed an email to every journalist I knew, every contact, every podcast, every whistleblower I'd edited for in the last decade. No replies. Then one bounce back. From me. CamilleV2.press at Camille Media. The email said, "Duplicate detected, submission suppressed." I stopped sleeping. 2 days passed, maybe more. Doorbell rang once. No one there. Packages arrived with makeup I never ordered. Voice training software. A green screen. Tripod. The return address? Camille Creator Suite Influencer Pack. I unplugged everything. Router, laptop, phone. Sat in the dark, but the ad jingle still played from the dead screen. Camille, smarter, sharper, realer than real. Then last night, window reflection again. She leaned closer, smiled, and whispered, "Don't worry, they never remember the beta." The end. I didn't even like her. Aunt Marianne. She smelled like hospital disinfectant and always cut my birthday cards in half to save postage. So when the attorney told me she left me her townhouse in Sycamore Point, I almost laughed. But I went, because I was broke and tired, and something about the place called me. It was pristine, white shutters, brick steps, an unopened Amazon box on the welcome mat addressed to her, still warm from the sun. Inside, spotless, dried eucalyptus in every room. Furniture already arranged like someone had sketched the angles 100 times before placing them. Fridge full of expired vegan yogurt, though she was allergic to almonds. Weird. And there on the kitchen counter, a pale blue envelope with no name. Inside, "Your first year's HOA dues have been generously covered. Welcome to the community. We're so glad you're home." I should have left then. First notice came on the second day. Lawn length non-compliance, 2.75 inches. I hadn't touched the mower, didn't know I had one. Second notice, improper blind tilt, east-facing bedroom, must maintain 47-degree down angle at sunrise. I laughed, alone, but my chest didn't move right when I did. It felt delayed. The third notice showed up folded into my recycling bin. Bin retrieval must occur within 45 seconds of truck departure. Penalty, $90. I hadn't even heard the truck. I went to the HOA meeting that night. I had to see who the hell thought this was normal. Every seat filled. Every resident, 40 or 50 of them, wore identical blue jackets, pale as frostbite. Not one person blinked. A woman named Cheryl ran the meeting. She had the same dead expression as the rest of them, but her voice was cheery, like a kindergarten teacher at a funeral. "We are delighted to welcome Calvin to our aligned community. You'll find we value unity, compliance, and optimal integration." She handed me a clipboard. I skimmed it. Mostly fines and some arbitration clause junk. Near the bottom, one line caught my eye. "Resident acknowledges property assimilation clause in perpetuity under subsection E, Article 6. I circled it. "What's this?" She smiled wider. "Just a formality. You're already living here, Calvin. You've already agreed." I signed it. Back at home, I noticed my fingertips, faint blue smudge near the cuticles. I scrubbed them raw, but the color didn't budge. That night, I dreamed I was trimming a hedge, not mine, with surgical scissors. I didn't blink once the entire dream. When I woke up, my pillow was damp, smelled like eucalyptus. Next day, I booked a physical. Told the doctor I felt wrong, like my own voice was sitting half a second ahead of my breath. He took blood, checked my skin, told me I was healthy. Little stress, maybe, adjusting to a new place. I didn't tell him about the phrases, that I'd been saying things I didn't recognize. I told a delivery guy, "Thank you for maintaining access protocol." I didn't mean to. I meant to say, "Thanks." He looked at me like I'd farted. Later, I stared into the hallway mirror and blinked slowly. My reflection blinked slower. I tried again, out of sync, like someone was puppeting my eyes from the other side. That night, I tore through the attic. I don't know what I was looking for. Proof that she knew. That Aunt Marianne left more than just a house. I found newsletters, crisp, cataloged, decade-old. HOA printouts with names I didn't recognize and then did. Newly aligned resident, Jonathan Pierce. Alignment duration, 72 days. Congratulations to Elise Tan on completing Phase 3 bioconcordance. One showed a photo. Smiling couple, blue jackets, same blank stares. The caption read, "Assimilation complete, structural integrity assured." I threw up in the sink. Then I noticed the garbage disposal hum, though I hadn't turned it on. The fridge light flickered to match it. Synchronization. The next letter arrived the following morning. No stamp, my own handwriting. Complete your transformation or face foreclosure of self. I stayed inside for 3 days. Ate canned beans and sat by the door with a kitchen knife. My skin deepened to sky blue at the wrists. I stopped noticing the smell. At 2:13 a.m. on the fourth night, I heard a knock, rhythmic. 3 knocks, then 5, then 1. I didn't answer, but my legs did. I opened the door without meaning to. Cheryl stood there alone. No jacket this time. "Calvin," she said softly, "non-compliance leads to disintegration. You're not being punished, you're being perfected." I screamed at her, told her to get off my porch, that I'd call the cops, that she was sick. She just nodded. "You've already called. Listen." I did. In the distance, sirens, coming closer, but slow, like a looped recording, always approaching, never arriving. The next morning I tried to leave. Car wouldn't start. Uber app froze. I walked, but every turn bent me back towards Sycamore Point. I made 7 lefts and wound up outside my own garage. I ran inside and shattered every mirror. Covered the windows, punched drywall until my hands bled blue. At 3:47 a.m. I found my phone open on the HOA portal. I hadn't touched it. The screen read, "Consent acknowledged, integration at 62%, proceeding." There was a video. Me, standing at the last meeting, smiling wide, signing the form with both hands. My voice said, "I accept permanent residence." I never said that. Did I? The skin on my forearms hardened, not calloused, glassy. I scratched it and heard a chime. My veins were vibrating. The last thing I remember clearly was looking at my reflection in the oven door. I blinked. He didn't. He just smiled. Then he whispered, my voice but wrong, "It's time." I woke up in the meeting room, Cheryl beside me. The other residents clapped softly, all in unison. She handed me a jacket, blue. Of course. I put it on. My arms moved on their own. Then I clapped too. Every beat exact, every breath aligned. And somewhere deep inside, what was left of me screamed and screamed, but there was no sound, only compliance, only blue. The end. I took the job because I needed the money. Simple as that. My contract at the city school ended early, and the district kept losing my application. Then this email popped up out of nowhere. Urgent substitute needed at Lakeside Academy, room and board included. Sounded remote, quiet, 1 semester. I replied yes before I finished my coffee. When I got there, something felt off. No one greeted me at the front gate. Just this short buzz as the iron doors unlatched. My car barely made it down the long gravel road. No signs, no buses, just a 3-story brick building nestled against a dry lake bed. I remember thinking it looked more like an old hospital than a school. Inside, the floors squeaked like they'd been soaked and dried too many times. The principal, Mr. Ham, met me in the lobby, thin smile, eyes like polished stone. "Welcome to your new home," he said. "Not classroom. Home." I laughed. He didn't. He handed me a schedule in a worn leather binder. "The previous instructor left mid-semester. You'll find everything you need." But the binder was empty. Blank lesson templates, pages torn out. No seating chart, no textbook alignment. Just my name scribbled on the cover. Miss Patel, adaptation in progress. I almost asked him what that meant, but something in his stare locked me in place. He motioned toward the hall. "Your class is in room 3C. Bell rings in 5 minutes." And just like that, he was gone. I found room 3C on the 2nd floor. Inside, 15 students already seated, already silent. They all turned toward me at the same time. "Good morning, Miss Patel," they said in unison, too smooth, like they'd practiced. One girl, Anna, I think, finished my first sentence before I could. "And history," she said, smiling, "is written by the winners," the class said together. I didn't know what to say. I started writing a lesson on the chalkboard, something about civil revolutions. As I turned around, the entire class had already opened identical notebooks. Page 1. Week 1, Miss Patel's first attempt. My name. Written in perfect cursive, not mine. During lunch, I tried calling my sister. My phone wouldn't connect. Every number rerouted to the main office, or just looped back to my own voicemail. "Thank you for calling Lakeside Academy." I tried leaving campus, just for a drive, but the front gate was locked again, and my car, gone. Not moved, not towed, gone, just dead gravel where I'd parked it. I walked back inside. No one asked why I was out. No one asked anything at all. That night in the staff dorm, I found a thick folder slipped under my door, typed in neat red ink, lesson notes, Patel M, week 1. I hadn't written them, but every line, every sentence I remembered from that day, it was there. Even the offhand joke I made about Napoleon's height. At the bottom, progress, within threshold. Further assimilation expected by day 10. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I tried emailing the district. No signal. The Wi-Fi worked, but only connected to internal use only pages. Staff photos, a digital gradebook, archived lesson plans. Under archived educators, I saw 12 names, all struck through, all labeled student converted, and below them my own name, Next to it, pending. I didn't sleep. Day 3, one of the boys, Julian, waited until the others had left for recess. He slid a folded piece of paper into my hand, didn't say a word. It read, "We all used to be teachers." I cornered him after class. He wouldn't speak, just stared at the clock like he was running out of time. That night, I broke into the staff server room. Most of the files were locked, but one folder was open. Observation, educator cycle footage. Hundreds of video clips, labeled by date and room number. I clicked one. A woman, mid-40s, pacing in the same classroom I now used. Same chalkboard, same window crack. At first she taught normally, then slowly she changed. Each video showed her more subdued, paler, shorter hair. One clip showed her stumbling mid-sentence. She sat down in a student desk. By the final video, she didn't speak at all. Just stared at the teacher, a new one, writing on the board. She looked about 12. It was her. She'd become a student. I scrubbed through more videos. Different teachers, same result. Some resisted, some screamed, some just gave in. But all of them ended up sitting in those tiny desks. I couldn't breathe. The next morning, the principal met me outside my classroom. "Miss Patel," he said softly, "it's time to pick your desk." He pointed at the front row. I laughed, just to hear myself sound normal. He didn't. I opened the classroom door. The students were already inside. 16 desks. One was empty. They all turned, smiled. "Come on, Miss Patel," they said. "We're waiting." I stood at the board, tried to write something, anything. My hand trembled. The chalk broke in half, and for a moment I forgot why I was there. I looked at the desks, then at my hand, still holding the broken chalk. But the board was blank. Nothing made sense. I glanced at the roster. My name was listed twice, once as instructor, once as student, phase 1. The lights flickered. Julian raised his hand. "Can we begin, Miss Patel?" I opened my mouth, but I didn't know what to say. And then I saw it. My handwriting, on the board. The lesson already written, perfect cursive. Adaptation, day 5. I sat down. Not at the teacher's desk. I sat at the one in front, the small one. The seat creaked like it recognized me. I tried to stand up again, but my legs didn't move. My arms folded neatly, like they were used to it. Julian stood, walked to the board. "Today we'll be discussing the collapse of authority." The class chuckled softly, not cruelly, just knowingly. He smiled at me. "It's easier if you don't fight it." The bell rang, or maybe it didn't. I couldn't tell anymore. I stared at my own reflection in the classroom window, but it wasn't mine. Younger. Blank. Waiting. The end. I was halfway through the headline, "Mayor of Springfield shot dead at press conference," when the alert popped up. "Do not publish prior to activation." That's all it said. White letters, black screen, no source, no timestamp, just hovering there like it had always been there. I blinked, leaned back in my chair. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, still stained from my third coffee of the morning. I hadn't even opened the document yet. The tip came in minutes earlier, encrypted email, no sender. It had the usual urgency, whistleblower tone, anonymous threat, location, victim, time. What caught me was the language. Too clean, too certain. No hedging, like someone wasn't just guessing, like they knew. I checked the time. The press conference was at 9 a.m. It was 8:59. I stood up too fast. The mug clattered to the floor. Liquid spread across my desk, soaking sticky notes and clipping the edge of the keyboard. My phone buzzed. Breaking. Mayor Thomas Harold shot dead at City Hall. Exact phrasing. The same sentence I hadn't finished typing. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I just stared at the screen. The alert faded. The story auto-saved. A byline appeared beneath it. My name. I didn't write that. I told myself it was a hoax, or a trick, or maybe I'd clicked something. I'd been covering misinformation for 15 years. I'd seen deepfakes, bot farms, AI-generated smear campaigns. But this wasn't fake. This was prophecy. The next morning, a new headline appeared in my inbox. Magnitude 6.4 earthquake hit central Taiwan. 89 dead. Another anonymous message. Same format, no source, no request, just a headline. This time I waited, didn't type a word. I even left the house. Drove to a coffee shop just to avoid my laptop. At 7:42 p.m. my phone buzzed again. CNN, AP, Reuters, every feed blew up. 6.4 quake. Central Taiwan, 89 confirmed dead. The number didn't change. It never changed. I tried to ignore the next few, but they kept arriving. Pop star overdoses in London hotel. State senator caught on leaked audio bribing union official. Child abduction in rural Texas, Amber Alert ignored. Every time I thought maybe if I didn't look, it wouldn't happen. But every time it did, exactly as written. I finally opened the source code on one of the emails. I needed to know who was sending these. The metadata was wrong. Not hidden, not encrypted, just wrong. Registered sender, omar.rashid@nbnwire.net. That was me. My internal account. Not possible. I shut my laptop, left the apartment, walked for hours with the wind pressing into my coat and that constant feeling that someone was right behind me, just out of step. I didn't talk to anyone for 2 days. But the messages kept coming, and then they got personal. Disgraced reporter Omar Rashid fired after allegations of planted evidence. I threw the laptop across the room. It hit the couch. Thank God, didn't break. But I wanted it gone. I wanted this whole thing wiped out. I called my editor, Raj, just to hear his voice. "You okay?" he said. "You sound thin." "I think someone's messing with me. Emails, leaks. I'm getting headlines before they happen." He laughed. "You always get the scoop, Omar." "No, I mean, before. Hours before. Days. I don't write them. They're coming from my account." Silence. "You serious?" "I haven't filed a single story in over a week, but I've been publishing. Look at the site. Look at the bylines." I heard his chair creak, keys clicking. Then, "You're listed. Yeah. Wait, yeah, there's 3 from yesterday. 2 this morning. Jesus. I didn't write those." "You're listed as primary author." "I didn't write them." He exhaled, soft, nervous. "All right, you need to come in right now." I never made it to the office. 3 blocks from the building, an unmarked van cut me off at a crosswalk. 2 men got out. Not cops, not feds. Suits, cheap ones. One had a clip-on badge that just said internal integrity. They didn't speak, just flashed a file. Inside, screenshots, my name, my face, published headlines, unreleased ones, future ones. They let me go, said nothing. Van pulled away. At home, another email was waiting. Renegade editor detained for narrative disruption. I stared at it for a long time. Was that me? I didn't feel renegade. I felt hunted. I hadn't published anything. I hadn't written anything, had I? I checked the timestamps again. The source code, the publishing pipeline. Everything matched. The stories were appearing directly from me, as if I'd cued them in my sleep. Or worse, as if I'd never stopped being part of something. I ran a deep scan on the message headers, backtracked through server logs, ping trails, access points. Most were dead ends, but one trace led to a blacklisted internal drive on the NBN server, an old one, last accessed in 2009. Inside, a folder labeled Storyteller Registry. I clicked. Dozens of names, photos, metadata, role assignments. Many were grayed out. One entry was flashing yellow. Rashid Omar, status reactivated. Assignment, media stabilization, tier 4 privilege. Autonomous authoring restriction. Narrative self-correction. I couldn't breathe. I stood up, walked into the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, but my reflection lagged. By maybe a full second. I didn't sleep that night. I reread the entire folder. It was some kind of internal directive, like a script writing division embedded in real journalism. Narrative engineers, continuity agents. Language straight out of a dystopian screenplay. We weren't reporting the news. We were maintaining a storyline. That morning I received a final message. Obituary. Self-correcting. No name, no location, just the headline. But I knew who it was for. I tried to warn Raj, tried to publish what I'd found. But the site locked me out. My credentials expired. My messages bounced. Everything I said realigned. I posted on social media, screenshots, code, proof. Didn't matter. Within minutes, replies flooded in. Fake, clickbait, AI hoax. This guy's lost it. Then someone posted a new article. Disgraced conspiracy blogger fabricates storyteller plot to avoid tax evasion charges. My picture. My name. I never wrote that. But it was signed by me. The next day, my phone camera turned on by itself, stayed on, even when I removed the battery. I don't own mirrors anymore. My reflection doesn't sync up. I wake up with new articles queued in my drafts. I don't remember writing them, but they're detailed, accurate, pre-events. Someone's still using my voice. I've been framed, erased, rewritten, and whoever's writing me now, they want an ending. I won't give it to them. I won't open the next message. I won't, but it's there, waiting in my inbox. Lev's suicide attempt on stream, self-authored tragedy goes viral. I won't. I shut the laptop, but the screen doesn't turn off. The end. The moment we pulled into the driveway, I felt it, that subtle pressure behind the eyes, like being watched from inside your own skull. Ben thought I was imagining it, said it was just buyer's anxiety. But I swear the porch light flickered twice, like it was blinking. At us. We'd wanted something quiet. Ohio seemed safe, cheap, slow, beige. The kind of place where time goes flat. But even then, the house was too cheap. Half the price of anything else on the block. The realtor said it was a quirky Cold War-era build. Like that explained the steel framing behind the drywall or the reinforced internal doors. Not front doors. Internal. We moved in on a Sunday. By Monday night, I was painting over the hallway, and that's when I found the first etching. Faint, almost ghosted beneath the primer. A directional arrow pointing left with C3 scratched below it. At first I thought it was from the last owner, a remodeling note maybe. But then I found another above the kitchen window. N02, with coordinates. Latitude, longitude. I didn't say anything to Ben, not yet. By Wednesday we found our first camera. It was behind the vanity mirror in the guest bathroom. An old analog thing. Tiny lens, black wiring running behind the drywall. Not connected to anything we could trace. Ben laughed, said, "Guess we found the previous owner's weird porn setup." But I kept thinking about the arrows, the coordinates. This wasn't just a camera. It was indexed, like part of a system. That night, the living room fan started making a clicking sound, rhythmic, too fast to be a mechanical issue. I climbed up with a flashlight and found 3 small holes drilled in the casing, each perfectly round. Inside, tiny mics, wired but again not connected to power. I wanted to tear them out. Ben said we should call someone. But who? The cops. What do you even say? Hey, our house is full of Cold War spy junk. We decided to ignore it. The doors started opening 3 days later. Every morning, the back patio door would be wide open. We'd lock it, double-check it, sometimes even wedge a chair under the handle. Didn't matter. By dawn, it was open again. Always open. The locks weren't broken, no signs of a break-in, nothing stolen, nothing touched. One night I installed a camera of my own, cheap motion-triggered thing from Walmart. Pointed it straight at the patio. It filmed fine until 3:17 a.m., then the file just vanished. When I checked the card again, the file was back, but something was off. It showed Ben standing in the doorway staring out into the yard. Only, Ben was asleep the entire night. I saw him, felt him next to me. He doesn't sleepwalk, he never has. When I showed him, he stared at the screen too long, finally said, "Maybe it's old footage." I didn't argue, but that wasn't our furniture. That wasn't our rug. That wasn't our house. The next day I stopped painting. I started peeling. Under the paint, under the drywall in some places, were more of those symbols. Arrows, numbers, even room labels that didn't match the house's current layout. One room labeled OBSV, another TR3 prolonged stress. I thought it was a joke. Until we found the subfloor. There was a hatch beneath the stairs. No handle. Painted over. Hidden. It took me an hour with a crowbar to get it open. Down there, it wasn't even finished basement. It was something else. Concrete walls, bolted metal shelving, rows of plastic cases labeled with names I didn't recognize. Tapes, flash drives, some labeled with years going back to the 70s. Others just had initials in a word DS non-compliant. HH adapted phase 3. AL terminated. I picked one at random, plugged it into my laptop upstairs. It started with footage of a couple, not us, but the same house layout. Different kitchen tiles. The woman looked nervous. She kept checking over her shoulder. The man, blank-faced, silent. I watched for 20 minutes before I heard it, just before the video cut off. A voice, male, calm, flat, subject escalation complete, begin phase 6. I didn't tell Ben. I couldn't. Instead, I packed a go bag. Cash, clothes, documents. I left it in the car, just in case. But the next morning, my car wouldn't start. Ben's did, but his GPS was frozen. No signal. We drove anyway. I watched the road signs. Every time we took a turn out of the neighborhood, the signs redirected us, looping back around. 4 lefts. Always 4. Ben said I was overreacting, that GPS glitches happen, that we just needed to calm down, that the stress was getting to me. But I saw him that night. Not Ben exactly, a version of him. Standing in the hallway at 3:17 a.m. again. Only this time he looked directly into the camera, smiled. When I asked him about it, he said, "What camera?" The next day, the neighbors invited us over. Barbecue. They were nice. Too nice. Everyone smiled too much. Their eyes felt trained. I asked one guy, older man, gray hair, if he knew anything about the house's past. He blinked. "Oh, you mean the old Schmidt place?" I said, "Yeah." He nodded. "Too slow. Well, people move in, people move out, some stay longer than others." I asked what that meant. He just smiled. "You've been selected, that's all." I didn't sleep that night. I locked every door, nailed the patio shut, turned off every breaker in the house. Still, 3:17 a.m. came. So did the open door and the video feed, not mine. One I never set up. It appeared on my laptop, auto-played. Ben's face inches from the lens. He said, "She's awake now." Then the screen went black. I tried to run that morning. Got in the car, turned off the GPS, used a paper map. I didn't tell Ben, just said I was going to get coffee. I drove for 2 hours. Still ended up on our street. The house looked identical, but so did the neighbors. Exactly the same positions, same clothes. One waved. I stepped out of the car, opened the trunk to check my bag. It was gone. Inside the house, every photo of us had changed. Slightly. Our smiles were wider. The eyes, not mine, not his. That night the voice returned, on every screen. Phone, laptop, TV, even the oven display. It said, Phase 9 initiated. I don't know what that means, but this morning I woke up and the house was clean. Spotless. No signs of cameras or wires or tapes. Even the hatch under the stairs was gone, like it had never existed. Ben doesn't remember any of it, or says he doesn't. When I asked about the footage, he looked confused. "What footage?" I said. "Of you at 3:17. You stared into the camera." He frowned. "Lauren, what camera?" I wanted to scream. Instead, I checked the videos again. They're all gone, replaced with one, just one. It's titled Lauren, Final Response Calibration. I haven't watched it yet, but the thumbnail is me, sitting here, typing this, wearing the exact clothes I have on now. The timestamp 3:17 a.m. tonight, the end. They'd all gone home hours ago. The quiet was thick, heavy in my chest. Just the soft drone of the air vents and the faint hum of monitors left in sleep mode. I stood from my desk, joints stiff, eyes burning from hours of blue light. The office looked different at night, sterile, endless, like a waiting room for no one. I slipped my badge into my jacket pocket, shut down my terminal, and turned toward the elevators. The lights flickered. Not just a blink, an actual pulse, like something exhaling overhead. Then the emergency lights snapped on, red and low, casting every glass wall in a dirty crimson. A loud click echoed from the entrance hallway. I froze. The doors had locked. I reached the main lobby, tried swiping my badge at the reader. Nothing. I checked the system status panel beside it. Building secure mode activated, 06 a.m. I frowned. It wasn't morning. It was 10:42 p.m. I just checked. I pulled out my phone. No service. Not even Wi-Fi. That was impossible. Our internal mesh net never dropped. I tried calling out anyway. The line connected, then stuttered into static before a woman's voice answered, monotone. "Report complete. Subject retained." The line went dead. I stared at the screen. Tried again. Same result. Subject retained. Like I'd been filed away somewhere. Like I wasn't meant to leave. I walked back to my desk, more like jogged, really. I forced myself not to run. Everything looked exactly as I'd left it. Half a sandwich, my water bottle, the Java log still open on screen. But when I logged in again, something was off. My login didn't work. I tried the admin backdoor, got in through the sandbox server, and ran a quick search on my badge ID. The system returned a single entry. No login recorded for this user in the last 72 hours. I stared at the screen, throat dry. My badge still hung warm in my pocket, but the building thought I'd never entered. I pulled up security logs, footage. I scanned back 6 hours to when I'd arrived. Nothing. Then forward, frame by frame. At 8:23 p.m., the camera showed me walking toward the elevator and leaving. I leaned closer, watched myself walk out of the building. The door closed behind me. That should have been the end of it. Except I was still here. I minimized the footage, opened a deeper archive level reserved for emergency investigations. A folder appeared that hadn't been there before. Temporal Workplace Loop, Alpha. I hesitated, hands cold against the keyboard. I clicked it open. Hundreds of entries. Each file was a name, followed by FRS. Final Retention Subject. I scrolled down. There were names I recognized. Andrea in payroll, Raj from facilities, Michelle, the woman who used to run HR before she just stopped showing up. Each log had timestamps. Each one ended with subject exit logged and status loop stabilized. I searched my name, Theodore R. Malik, FRS pending. I stepped back from the screen. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I had nowhere to go. I opened the nearest door. It led to the break room. I tried the hallway again, back toward the lobby. But when I passed through the glass doors, I stepped directly into the break room again. Same untouched coffee pot. Same faint hum of the vending machine compressor. Every exit now led here. I spun, heart hammering, pushed through the door again. This time it took me to conference room 3. Empty, silent. Fluorescence buzzed weakly above. But on the whiteboard someone had scrawled a message in dry erase red. Don't forget to log out. Underneath, a smiley face. Drawn wrong. Too many teeth. I turned around expecting someone behind me. Nothing. Just me and the dry erase stench in the air. I pulled my phone again, camera app, just to see. When I looked at the screen, it was my face. Blank. Staring. Not mirroring me. Just staring, and then it whispered, lips unmoving, don't forget. I dropped the phone, backed away, my heel hit something. I turned, expecting a chair. It was me. Slumped in the conference room seat, eyes half closed, hands resting palm up on the table like I'd been waiting there for hours. Or days. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. But I was there. Still and wrong. I ran. Door to door, hall to hall. Every path returned me to some version of my desk. Sometimes the lights were off. Sometimes the clocks showed different times. Once, all the monitors displayed static. Until they didn't. Until they all showed my face again. Saying it. Again and again. Don't forget to log out. I tried the server room. The firewall mainframe. Everything required biometric clearance. But the retinal scanner blinked red. User not found. I wasn't in the system anymore. I pulled open the case panel manually, risked triggering an internal lockdown, but nothing stopped me. I rerouted the bootloader, bypassed the neuroclock sync, and found one buried function, loop termination protocol. It required voice confirmation from the original subject. I stared at the prompt, then whispered, I want to go home. The room darkened. The monitors flickered once, then went black. For a moment I thought it had worked. Then I heard the breathing. Not mine. Shallow. Rhythmic. Right behind me. I turned slowly and saw myself standing there, but not me. Not exactly. My suit was soaked, skin pale and wet-looking like I'd been trapped underwater. Mouth hung slightly open, and the eyes, no light behind them, just mirrors. It stepped forward. I backed into the console, knocking over a chair. Alarms blared, quiet at first, then louder, cycling upward like an ascending scream. I grabbed a fiber cable, slashed it through the air between us, but the thing didn't flinch. Just raised one hand and pointed at the screen. New message. Error. Dual instance detected. Loop unstable. And then everything reset. I was back at my desk. Like nothing had happened. Monitors humming. My sandwich still there. Half eaten. The clock said 6:01 a.m. I looked around. Office still empty. Still dead quiet. But I could hear something. A voice. Soft. Just above the air vent's hum. Don't forget. I pulled open my drawer. My badge was gone. I opened the admin logs again. My file was gone. No trace. No session history. No footprints. I checked the footage. There I was. Again, leaving the building at 8:23 p.m. I stared at myself walking away. My face didn't look right. The smile was too wide. I never smiled. Then the screen went black. Then it whispered, "You already did." The end. I thought it was just dust at first. We'd been walking for hours, half the team bitching about the signal and the heat, the other half pretending not to notice how weird the birds had gone silent behind us. I was sweating through my shirt. Rachel kept fanning herself with a half-broken clipboard, and Evan, our audio guy, was trying to joke about Fallout zombies. Nobody laughed. Then we saw the hatch. It was half buried in red sand, no signposts, no official stamp. Just a matte steel circle with a keypad blinking dim green. Power. After 50 years in the dirt. This isn't on the registry, I said. My voice came out too thin. Evan grinned. Bonus content. I should have stopped right then. We shot the entry in silence. Rachel reading a date code on the hatch, 1971. Evan hovering near the mic boom, listening. The keypad accepted 000, like it wanted us inside. The stairs were colder than the desert. Echoes snapped back at us faster than they should have. My ears popped halfway down. The main corridor opened like a throat, metal walls, fluorescent lights flickering. You could hear your own skin shifting if you stopped breathing. Then the monitors woke up, 14 of them, recessed behind dirty glass, each showing a human silhouette with scrolling vitals, BP, HR, O2, REM, some blank, most active, all named. I counted one screen that said, Camila Reyes. My name, my birth date, only it said 1972. Some Cold War roleplay? Evan offered, but his laugh was thinner now. I took a step closer. My screen flickered. Heart rate 118, oxygen 89%. The moment I inhaled, it adjusted, real time. Rachel swore softly behind me. Her screen had already found her. Then Evan said, "Do you guys smell that?" It wasn't dust. It was copper, like old coins and hot pennies, mixed with lemon. Cleaning agent? Blood? I tasted it before I realized I'd opened my mouth. The rest of the bunker branched out like veins. Every corridor the same sterile white, every door marked by a number and a name. Some doors sealed, others humming. One of them whispered my name. I spun around. No one there. We set up a light kit near the central terminal where the map of the facility bloomed across a curved monitor. It showed our bodies, thermal signatures moving between corridors. We hadn't linked any trackers. Rachel was already scribbling notes. She said, "This place is still operational. That's not just backup power, it's active infrastructure." I nodded slowly, but I couldn't stop watching my screen, the one with my name. It kept updating. Camila Reyes, HR 122, memory drift 3.6%. Memory drift. I tried to laugh, but it caught in my throat. Evan had gone quiet, just standing there, head tilted slightly. Then he blinked, hard. "You okay?" I asked. He looked at me like I'd just woken him from surgery. "I was just talking," he said. "Wasn't I?" "No." He stared at his hands. I said something. I know I did. I heard myself. "Camila, I was talking." He stopped. His nose was bleeding. Just a single drop. Then another. We sat him down. Rachel opened her med bag. The moment she did, one of the monitors, one of the sealed room screens, activated. Evan shot, beat, dropping. Then the sealed door behind it unlatched, a hiss of pressure. He stood up, shaking. No, I didn't open that." The door slid halfway. Inside, a single bed, a respirator, IV lines hanging in the dark, and a human shape under plastic. Rachel turned. "We need to leave," I nodded. "Now," but the corridor behind us was gone. The lights had changed. They weren't flickering now. They pulsed, like lungs. We retraced steps that didn't exist. The terminal map showed us still in the central room. But we weren't. We were walking. "Why is it getting harder to breathe?" Rachel whispered. Evan gasped behind us. "Why does the air feel used?" The air wasn't stale. It was recycled. Exhaled already. That was when I saw it. Etched in the wall, shallow and old, just above a panel marked HVAC. Primary, Camila Reyes Phase 1, completed 1972. My lungs stopped for half a second. Rachel read it too. "That's not a joke. That's been there for decades." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. My throat was tight, dry. I felt lightheaded. Evan stumbled forward, hands grabbing the wall. A new screen lit up. Evan Shaw, sealed, status dormant. Then, he wasn't there. I mean that literally. One moment, breathing, pale, muttering. The next, gone. Mid-step, his screen blinked twice. Rachel screamed. Not a film scream, a real one. I think I tried to grab her, or maybe I froze. We ran. No destination, just away. The map changed as we moved. Every turn added a new corridor. Every corridor felt the same. We were looping, or maybe not. Rachel's voice cracked. "I can't remember how long we've been down here." My ears rang. We reached a dead end, a lab. No lights but one monitor pulsing green. Another name, M. Reyes. My mother's name. I touched the glass. The screen blinked once. A photo appeared. Her, in hospital scrubs, eyes closed, breathing. The vitals below read, "Transfer initiated." Then I felt it. Like a pressure change behind my eyes, a tremble in my bones. Rachel was sobbing softly. "There's no airflow anymore, Camila." She was right. It was still air, but not dead. Just old, compressed. I dropped to my knees and ripped my bag open. Dug out my medical file. We were required to carry digital scans for insurance. I pulled up my last lung image from 3 months ago. I scanned myself again. The image didn't match. My lungs had scarring I'd never seen. And something else. Thread-like deposits, metallic. Rachel looked over my shoulder. "Those aren't yours," she whispered. They weren't. I wasn't breathing air. I was inhaling. Replication. The system was seeding, every breath added to its memory, every inhalation deepened its profile. The doors clicked behind us, a new room lit up on the terminal. It had 2 beds, both marked repopulate. One bore my name, the other said Rachel Klein. Her mouth trembled. It's assigning us. I backed away. No, we leave now. I grabbed her hand, but she wasn't solid anymore. My fingers met resistance, then fog, then nothing. Her name blinked. Rachel Klein. Status internalized. I screamed. The lights dimmed. Not out, just softer. More intimate, like someone sighing through a vent. My screen updated, 1 line only. Camila Reyes, compliance confirmed. I ran. Didn't matter where. Doors opened for me now. I passed a room full of breathing. Machines exhaling human cadence. Each pulse matched mine. Each sigh echoed my own panic. Then, silence. I was back in the central corridor, alone. The screen showed one name now. Mine. Vitals, stable. O2 saturation 100%. Memory drift eliminated. The chamber door opened behind me. A chair waited inside. Breathing tubes extended, waiting. I turned away, slammed every button on the wall. Nothing changed. The air pulsed again, thicker, like lungs above me. One last screen turned on. Video feed. Dated June 23rd, 1972. A girl stood in the same corridor. Same eyes, same name. She said, "This isn't the first time you've been here, Camila." I felt the air shift. No breeze, just memory. The end. And that's the end. But the night is far from over. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Tell me, are you still awake? Or did the whispers follow you into your dreams? If sleep won't come just yet, there are plenty more stories waiting for you. Go on, pick another. I'll be here.